Hoş geldiniz. Hoş bulduk. Hope everyone is okay, and I hope everyone's having a very great and hopefully eventful week. The sun's out. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful weekend as well. Today is a very special one. We were expecting a Güzel magazine show, but I thought we'd give it a little bit of a rest this week. And I've gone back to doing questions with the first one was my very first one, which was with Çağlar Davutoğlu, which was the guy who did Stay Home. It was a nice little introduction as well to the TCCUK group. And today's one is with Hussain Hoca. I'm gonna have to be open. Before I joined this, we created this group. I did not know Hussain Hoca at all. I've spoken to him as well and said, don't get offended. I didn't know. And ever since I've come into the group and I've included the London community, it's as though I know him as family. All I hear is his name. It's positive and positive. And it's really, really good of what he's doing for our community. So before I introduce him, just going to run down of what will be happening on in our group. We have Deniz Aydın tomorrow at 7 p.m. So make sure you tune in for the live entertainment from him. And then on Saturday, we have Little Lara, who will be on at 6 o'clock. And followed from there, we'll have Ali Popçu at 8 o'clock for some live entertainment. And this live entertainment we're doing for you to enjoy, to remove yourself from the outside world that is happening at the moment, and to relax. It's healthy for our mental mind at the moment, and I hope everyone tuned into the mental health show that we had with Umay. It was a great show about mental health. You can see it should be in the videos if you wish to replay it back again. Next week she'll be talking about drug abuse. And the following week after that will be about cyberbullying and trolling. So let's go straight into the show. So I'd like to invite Hussain Hoca. Hopefully he's all right and he's ready to come in. Just waiting for his thumbs up. He's fine. And then let's get this show running. Hoş geldin.
Hoş bulduk.
Nasılsın? Tamamsın? Günün nasıl geçti?
Vallahi günümüz yoğun geçti her zamanki gibi.
Kolay
Yani
gelsin.
maalesef bizi lockdown pek evde kalmamızı izin de vermedi. Çünkü işimiz çok yoğun. Bugün de evden çalışıyorum ama yoğun çalıştım. Bir sürü gazeteciler falan aradılar Kıbrıs'tan.
Kolay
So it was
gelsin.
a full day today. And then I had this privilege to be on this show. And I'd like
It's an
to
honor.
thank everybody. Thank you, and thank you as well.
And like I said before, I don't take no offense to it. Obviously, I never knew, your name never passed any of the lips of any of the Birmingham lot over here. So I didn't know of yourself until I came into the group. And the only thing I could hear from people was your name, and it was positive. Musti, one of the admins, and also Emine speak very highly of you. And I thought, let's get yourself onto the show. Let's inspire people. Let's hopefully give a bit of knowledge, share some knowledge, which is absolutely free, and it's good knowledge as well. And let's start with the questions. Let's see it as more of a sohbet than a interview, kind of for a job interview. But sen burada mı doğdun yoksa Kıbrıs'ta mı doğdun?
Ve burada doğdum.
Burada doğdun.
İngiltere'de doğdum.
İngiltere'de doğdun.
East London'da doğdum. Tam Cockney olan. Cockney. I was born in Bethnal Green actually.
Okay.
And it was predominantly a very, very ethnic area. There was a lot of Turkish and Greek Cypriot people living in East London. So just to give some insight of what East London was like when I was born. So when the first Turkish Cypriots came to London, they came from different areas of Cyprus. Mm-hmm. And I'm actually my roots are from Kaleburnu, which is in the remote region of Karpaz, or better known as Karpasya. And it's a very remote village, but it was actually before the war, before the island was divided, or when people came to the north, it was probably the fifth or the sixth most populated Turkish Cypriot village of the whole of the island. Yani büyük bir nüfusu vardı ve büyük bir nüfusu da İngiltere'ye göç etmişti ve ilk Londra'ya gelen Türkler arasındadır bu köy. So it's the first village where people immigrated actually out of Cyprus. So there was immigration out of Kaleburnu from the turn of the century, the 19th century. People were going to Turkey. Lots of people, relations live in the south coast of Turkey. Antalya, Alanya, Mersin, bugün tabii İzmir, İstanbul'da, Ankara'da ve Hatay'da ve Antakya'da çok Kaleburnular var.
Wow.
Ve ikinci gelişleri, ikinci göç İngiltere olmuştu. Çünkü birçoğu askeridir. Benim dedem dahi İngiliz askerine yazılmıştı. Ve ilk defa genç yaşta evli çocukları bırakmıştı tabii. Ve onunla beraber birçok Kıbrıslı köylü ve tabii ki Kıbrıslı vatandaşlar o dönemde Second World War'a katıldılar. İkinci Dünya Harbi'ne katıldılar. Ama paralı asker olarak tabii ki. Dedem eğitim görmüş bir insanıydı. Kendi ailesinde tek okula giden kişi oydu dedemin. Eski Türkçe'de yazardı. Türkçe'de bilirdi. Çünkü Kaleburnu'da birçoğu Türkçe bilmiyorlardı. Veya Türkçe biliyorlar da daha çok Rumca konuşmayı tercih ediyorlardı. O başka bir konu. Ama o Türkçe, Rumca. Ondan sonra tabii ki askere gidince dedem orada İtalyanca, Arapça. Evet, Arapça ve İtalyanca söyledik. İngilizce de öğrendi. Yani hem konuşma hem yazma. Dedem hem İtalyanca konuşmayı bilirdi, hem yazmayı, hem Rumca okumayı yazmayı da öğrendi dedem. Ve çok yerler gezdi. Sonra Kıbrıs'a dönünce dedi burası artık yapamam falan. Londra'ya göç etti. I just want to say this though. Some of the earliest settlers to the UK actually came from Kaleburnu. So we have a person that actually came just after the First World War.
Wow.
He didn't stay here. He returned, but he had relatives that joined him after. And the oldest Turkish Cypriot Kaleburnu person who died in the UK was 74 years ago. He came, and that's a long time ago.
That is a very long time ago.
Yeah. So I'm from that remote village called Kaleburnu.
Wow. And how often do you go to Kibris and visit any of your relatives over there?
Right. I mean, I've got a massive family, and there's not a lot of people living in the village now. So a lot of my relatives actually are abroad. I've got lots of villages, but I've got lots of cousins in other villages and other towns, because my grandparents actually are not all from Kaleburnu. They all have origins from somewhere else. So I have a great grandmother who came from a village called Avtepe, which was known as Ayasimyos. I have another great grandmother that has origins in a village called Bladaniso, which is Balalan, a small village. And also I've got like relatives in places as far as like Gandu, if you've heard of it. Limassol, we have relatives who migrated and went to Bath. So I've got lots of cousins that have origins in Bath as well.
Wow.
So yeah, a bit of a mixture. I go to Cyprus at least 3 times a year. If I could, I could do more. So 2 times is usually a little bit work related. Yes. I like to do research, and I've been doing some projects on heritage sites in the south. So last year I had this, although I visit the south quite a lot because of work, but last year I had this kind of really great opportunity by myself to drive around and see all the old Turkish Cypriot villages. I think I visited about 25 villages and 4 towns. And it was like very moving. It was very, very emotional as well, because you see these kind of signs that once these were like populated by our ancestors, and they're still like heritage sites that, you know, when you see an old school, you just think, oh my God, how many people do you think went to this school, the classrooms, the camiler, mezarlıklar, hamamlar? It means something to you. You have a connection. I mean, I've never been to the south and thought, I hate this place. I've actually been there, felt quite sad returning back, because, you know, it's somebody's grandfather's house, or, you know, bu tarlalarda kimler çalıştı, kimler bayram etti, kimler evlendi o evlerde. Öyle biraz nostaljik bir insanım zaten. Onun için güzel bir Kıbrıs'a 3 defa senede gidiyorum. Usually between September and October, I spend my holiday vacation there, and I have a property there, and I hope to one day live there.
Kismet, kismet. Hopefully,
İnşallah.
I think that's everyone's motive. I think once they hit
It should be.
retirement, it's just like straight to Kıbrıs. I think, and it's just relaxed mode. But yeah, so you said, I know this is not one of the added questions, but you said that there was some Türk köyler var, Rum taraflı. Do you know the top of your head kaç tane var?
Yani güneyde bugün belki 100 tane köy var. Belki daha fazla. Yani bıraktığımız yani o güneyde kalan belki 100 çünkü hep köyleri Türk değildi. Karma da köyler vardı. Karma for the English speaking people. So there was lots of mixed villages, and some of the villages were actually hamlets where you only had about 12 or 13 houses.
Yeah.
But there's probably about 100 or so empty villages or villages that have been abandoned, and lots of houses in the town. So every town in the south, Baf, Mutalla, Boli, Kristofu, Limassol tabii. Limassol'un 3-4 tane Türk mahallesi var. Arnavut mahallesi var. Polemikya is actually now
do they
part
still have those signs up to say like Arnavut?
Yeah. The good thing about it is that you still have, in most of the towns, you still have the Turkish name. So you have like Atatürk Caddesi or Ummu Haram, like Hala Sultan. You have like Bozkurt Caddesi, or you have names of roads that are actually dedicated to people that died in the 60s as well. Şehitlerimiz, mezarlıklarımız duruyor. Birçok yerde şehitliklerimiz duruyor. Kalelerimiz, camilerimiz, hamamlarımız, köprülerimiz. Biz toplum olarak oraya da sahip çıkmamız lazım.
Evet. Aynen. So is there bir şey ne özlen Kıbrıs'ın? Kıbrıs'ın neyini özlen da isten getiresin İngiltere'ye?
Vallahi artık yediklerimizi değil, çünkü yediklerimizi burada rahat bulabiliyoruz artık.
Evet.
Ne
ben de aynısını söylüyorum. Yani yemekleri diyeceksem burada da aynısını hepsini bulabilin burada İngiltere, ama bence ben olarak desem zannederim o aile eğlenmesi, yani bir araya gelince aileler oturunca öyle bir değişiklik var havanın içinde. Bilin ki bir şey deyince başka birine gücüne gitmeyecek, gülebilin, eğlenebilin, sevinebilin. Bazı zaman bir aklına gelir, bazı zaman hepsiniz ağlarsınız aynı zamanda. Ondan sonra biri güler, hepsi güler aynı saatte. Ama bunu İngiltere'de hiç görmeyin, çünkü bazı insanlar uzakta kaldığı için yapamazlar her zaman.
Ben sizinle bir şeyler paylaşacağım bu konuda. Çok özlediğimiz şeyler var ki, ama bir tanesi bu. I'll say it in English as well. I miss the laid-back atmosphere, one. I miss the calmness of just waking up and the sun shining straight into your bedroom or onto your balcony. Keeping your door open. My house in my village, the door's open, the windows are open. I don't close it. I don't lock it. There's no need. I love the weather. I miss the weather. I miss the sense of family, family networking. Also, of course, the breathtaking scenery of Cyprus is just amazing. Like when you wake up in the morning, my house is like on a mountain, and I wake up and I'm surrounded by mountains and the sea. And I was talking to someone today. I could actually see Syria from where I was. So I mean, you're not going to find that in East London.
No, you won't. I mean, that's the same as like when I go to my mom and dad's house in Karşıyaka. Arkamızda dağlar var. Önden bakan denize, Türkiye'nin dağlarını görebilin. O sabahtan kalktığın o horozlar, tavukları duyabilin. Caminin sesini sabahın ilkten o sesi duyunca, zaten benim oğlum 4 yaşında. Onu duyunca bilir ki Kıbrıs'tadır. Kıbrıs hisseder. Çünkü o duyar o sesi. O bile durur. Söyle baba. Şş, bak konuşuyor. Konuşma. And tüylerim kalkar. Like literally, like burada hiç öyle görmediğim için, yoktuğu için, öyle camiler olmadığı için duymam onu, ama Kıbrıs'a gidince de sabahtan kalkarım Cihangir'de de kalkan da o duyan o sesi, that's it. Ben bilirim.
Aynen. Ben de hatırlıyorum, yani benim çocuklar şimdi çok delikanlı, yani adults olmuşlar. Ama hatırlıyorum onlar da küçükken böyle buggy ile gezerken veya uyurken gece ve ezan sesi duyarken köyde böyle ağızları açık kalırdı. Like, in big
Yeah,
shock and awe, like what is that
exactly.
sound
Yeah,
coming from the heavens, you know? It is beautiful. Bir şey daha söyleyeyim. Belki benim yaşımdaki insanlar daha çok anlayacak diyeceklerim. Birçok farklı bir eski Kıbrıs'ı hatırlıyoruz. Benim yaşım 50 ve 4-5 yaşındayken hemen savaştan sonra beni ailem gönderdi. Ben o eski Kıbrıs'ı çok özlüyorum. Yani eğer bana desen en çok ne özlüyorsun? Ben eski çocukluğumdaki Kıbrıs'ı özlüyorum. O köyde belki 1000 kişi yaşıyordu o zaman. Ee, Araba sahipleri belki 3-4 kişiydi. Ben çok iyi hatırlıyorum, sabahleyin kalkıyorduk. Tütün tarlasına giderdim nenemle. On the back of a donkey. I miss those days because you're not going to ever, no one's going to live those days anymore because
no,
everybody goes by tractor. I miss those days. It was very nostalgic. There was no baths and there was no proper toilets.
no,
And
same.
it
Bizim
was
de
very,
aynıydı.
very, it was very primitive. It was very primitive. I mean, I remember my first experience of going to Cyprus as a child, and it's ingrained in my memory forever. Is that we actually, and if he's watching, my cousin in Malta, Kani Osman, selamlar to him if he's watching. I hope he can watch this later on. So I'm on the plane with him and his late mother, Allah rahmet eylesin, Ayşe ablamı. Ve önce tabii ki savaş sonrasıydı. We had to stay in Adana for the night, and we stayed in a hotel. And the next day, late evening, Kıbrıs'a vardık. Kapkaranlık, her yerde elektrik kesintisi var. Zaten birçok yerlerde, benim kendi köyümde elektrik yoktu. Hatırlarım böyle gece giderken kendi kendimize diyorduk yani nereye geldik biz ama?
Yeah,
Neresindeyiz? And I remember going to the village in the night time, going to their house, and then an old man, which I found out later on, I didn't even know who he was. He was my nene's brother, put me on the back of a donkey at the age of 5, and he's holding like a lantern. And we're walking forever. And I think, where is this old man taking me? And then he takes me to my grandparents' house in the mountains. And they didn't even know I was coming. And it was like a shock of a life. And I've first time I've seen these really old people, and the dress was different. I mean, the dad was sitting on the bed with a dizlik on. The old lady, my nana, she wasn't very, very old, but she was old. For me, she was like ancient. And it was like a biblical scene. It was a complete biblical scene. And it's very dark and there's no lights in the house and everyone's got like little lamps. And the first thing I say is like, I wish I was back in London. Yani kendi kendime konuşuyorum. Lisan problemi de var. Nasıl konuşacağım bir de bilmiyorum. İngilizce biliyorum sadece. Ve sabahleyin bir uyandım ve kapılar açıldı. Bakarım bahçede keçiler, tavuklar, and this kind of amazing scenery, this landscape of mountains and these little houses. And it actually reminded me of like a scene from Jesus of Nazareth film. And you've seen all these women with their white headscarves working in the gardens and the old boys talking outside there. And it was like, I don't want to go back to London. This is that's engraved in my memory, and I will never ever see that Cyprus again. But I'm glad I was one of the people to have had that experience and the weddings and I remember all them köy düğünleri, kınalar. It's amazing. Yeah. Onları özlüyorum. Çok onları özlüyorum.
Aynen. Like ben de katılıyorum. Like o eski Kıbrıs'ı çocuktaki hatırladığım o hatıraları, alev karşısına gitme, piknikleri yapma, sabahları açan kapılara çıktı. Görebilin ne insan gelirse gelirdi. Yani hiç öyle sen uyun yatakta, koltukta biri gelir içerisine uyun der böyle. Oturun kakan. Ondan sonra horozlar var, keçiler var, her şey var. Etrafında onlar var. Zaten bu ev miydi? Dün gece geldim. Hiçbir şey görmedim mi? Şimdi açılır and it's picturesque. It's like as though it's a different picture. Like someone has painted in front of your eyes.
Yeah. Halil bir şey daha söyle yani bizi izleyenler için. Up to the early 80s, I would say up to the early 80s. So we're the privileged ones who lived through that period. When you used to travel to Cyprus in the 70s, and I mean, the amount of people that would come to greet you as soon as you got out of the car was incredible. I mean, I remember my parents coming to pick me up months later on my first trip, and I remember they were driving a Cortina, and I saw the car driving into the village because we was in the hills, and my nana was like crying, and there was this kind of emotion that you will never see now. I mean, the whole village would cry when you were leaving. Yani neneler dedeler çok uzun uzun ağlarlardı bilen. Yani çocuklar çünkü hasretiydi çocuklar. Telefon
Onu
yok.
Özlerim.
Bir mektup vardı, yani FaceTime yok, Twitter yok.
No.
And I remember waiting to greet my mum and my dad. It must have took me about 35 minutes to get through the crowd to go to the car.
Evet.
Yani onu söylerim, gözlerim doldu. It was a really o insanlar da hayatta değil. But that was Kibris. People were really close to each other.
Yeah. Evet, aynen. Çünkü bazıları da söylüyor şimdi, like eski zamanlarda Kıbrıs Türk Hava Yolları'ndan gelirdik. Ve doğruluk Türkiye'de kalırdık, uçakta gelirdik.
Evet.
Balkonlarda hepsini görürdük, balkonlarda. Hepsi el sallar ama kime salladığını bilmezdin. Giderdin içeri. O kadar queue'ler vardı. Beklen.
O nostaljik balkon, o balkonu hiç unutmam yani.
Hiç unutmam onu da, çünkü gelirdin içeri de o zaten eniştem şeydi, polisiydi. Yandan hadi gel yandan da yaparız pasportunu hızlı derdi bana. Tamam dedik, yaparız, geçerik. Zaten bekleyeceksin zaten valizlerin gelsin o bir tarafta. Onun için sen ağaç gibi beklen gelsin. Gene balkondan hepsi içeriden de bakarlardı. Sen orada beklen, valizlerini alasın. Hem içeriden görebilin büyük babanı, anneneni, yeğenlerin hepsi toplandı. Ondan sonra giden o kapı açarlar. Sanki blind date gibi açılır o kapı. Hepsi orada sıralı. Yani onu deyince,
ne ağlamalar, ne gülmeler.
Ne ağlamalar. Teyzem gelirdi, dayım gelirdi.
The whole village would come.
The whole village would come. And then derdin kendilerine, aklına derdin, ben bu arabanın içine nasıl girecek şimdi? Kaç arabana geldiler.
Yani o yani bak, bir kere daha görmeyecek o günleri.
No.
We need to really cherish these memories, because this is the old Cyprus that we actually lost. We've lost it, but we have these memories. But I remember even up to the late early 90s maybe, I used to see scenes like this, but where you see people traveling from Australia, Ercan'dan çıkış yapıyor ve anneleri ne kadar büyük ağlamalar, çünkü they didn't have that luxury that we have, where we can FaceTime and they çok büyük hasret çekildi ya. Çektiler eskiler.
Evet.
Ama özlüyoruz o insanları. Çünkü aramızda olmayan insanlar var şimdi. Çok özlüyoruz. Ve bizim nostaljik Kıbrıs hatıralarımızdadır.
İşte hepsinin gözünün önünde getirdik. Hepsi de aynısını söylüyorlar.
Aynen.
Onun için şimdiden konuştuk biraz Kıbrıs'ın. Biraz daha senin hocan işlerine gelmeden bir sorum daha var. What are your thoughts about the Turkish Cypriot Community UK group? I put you on the spot now.
No, you know what? I've actually been following you since the day it started. Sorry, Halil, I was not aware. It was only after Edim told me. Edim Meto, if you're watching, lots of best wishes to you and your family, and thank you for everything you do for our community as well. I actually spoke to him about it. I said, have you seen this great group? And he said, you know what? This actually group's been around for ages, but they've been based in Birmingham, and now they've opened up to the rest of it. I mean, I followed you. I have a very hectic lifestyle, Halil, but when I get my chance, yani giderim, like'larımı yaparım, yorumları okurum, güzel şeyler paylaşıyorsunuz. I think it's a great platform. I think you're very welcoming, and you've brought a lot of people together. If people are watching today, please do follow this page, because this page is really important. And let's make this page grow, because, I think there's hundreds of thousands of Turkish Cypriots living in the UK. And this is a way of connecting to our roots. There's so many things you can do on this page. You can share your memories of Cyprus. You can share your thoughts, your dishes. Share pictures of your grandparents. These are historical memories that we should never lose. We all come from different parts of Cyprus, and Cyprus may look very small on the map, but it's very diverse. Yani bir Baflı, bir Karpazlı'dan ne kadar da çok benziyorlarsa çok farklı bir kültür var. Limasollar,
Evet.
Larnakalılar. Yani hiç bilmediğimiz Trodos Dağları'nda küçük küçük köyler var. Monyadi gibi küçük bir Türk köyü vardı ve hala daha birkaç seneye kadar bir Türk yaşlı kadın Vasfiye nene yaşıyordu orada. Tek başına Rum tarafta. Yani Türklerimiz vardı. Yani let's bring this to life. Let's teach our children what our Turkish Cypriot. Let's preserve. And I believe, I really do believe, and please do not take any offense, anybody watching. If the group is not influenced by political ideologies, because we have people from different persuasions in the Turkish Cypriot community. You're going to have people that are not religious. You're going to have people who are religious. Let's respect each other. Even if there's someone who's an atheist and said, "Oh, what's this Hoca doing on here today?" Respect my views. I respect your views, but do not make a political fiasco of a really successful group. I think it's a really good way of bringing people together. And I was just saying to someone the other day, you could do so much more on TCCUK, but I'm not going to mention some of my dreams that I want to see TCCUK doing because it be sabotaged. No, but yani well done. Yani tebrik ediyorum sizi gerçekten. Bu toplum uzun zamandan sonra güzel bir şeye kavuştuk. Size gerçekten başarılar diliyorum. Ve sadece Birmingham'da veya Londra'daki Türkler değil, Bolton'da, Luton'da çok bir sürü Kıbrıslı akrabalarım ve let's unite and let's do something and let's preserve our culture for the next generation. Ki ben bunu üzerek de söylüyorum. Maltese gibiler olmayalım. Yani we can assimilate. It's nothing wrong. We have to, Turkish Cypriots will always take on things from other people's culture. We live side by side in Cyprus. The Greeks took something from us. We took something from their culture. Anatolian Turks the same. They have we eat lahmacun. It's an Armenian dish. We, we eat pilauna. It's an Easter dish by the Greeks, but it doesn't make you less Turkish by eating pilauna, and it doesn't make you less Turkish eating lahmacun. We eat baklava that might have origins from other regions of the Ottoman Empire, but it's all part of our culture now. So let TCCUK be the platform to preserve our Turkish Cypriotness and our Turkish Cypriot culture. And thanks TCCUK for giving me the opportunity in the month of Ramadan to speak and to give some guidance to our community.
No, thank you. It's been an honor to have you on during the Ramadan season to share that knowledge, to share some of that bit of belief as well, and also a bit of a bit of positivity. It's definitely brought the community together. I think Erin Meto was saying, and also I think Nafia was saying, I think from the Kibris Birliği, Genç Birliği as well, was saying that for the first time after a long time as well, during this COVID-19, this is the first time the community has come together, put every item to one side and supported one another. And it's basically been them versus the virus. And that's amazing. So hepinize çok teşekkür ederim that at least that has brought, even though it's been a negative, it's brought the community together.
Halil, çok isimler var. Beni çok takip eden insanlar var burada. Hepsinin ismini söylemeyeyim çünkü birini dışarı bırakırsam kendimi suçlu hissederim. Ama madem ki Nafia'dan bahsettin. Yani gerçekten Erim gibi, Nafia gibi benim için Guardian Angels var ya. Yani benim 2 tane Guardian Angels oldu. Because Nafia's done a lot. She's done a lot behind the scenes for COVID-19. She's stood there and she's been there. She's been a core person in the background. Really, really been someone I could turn to in my desperate moments of despair during COVID-19. And if she's watching, and I'm sure she will watch, thank you Nafia, because ben o günleri asla unutmam. Hala da yapıyor yani, hatırımı soruyor. But she has been a great person in my life who's, there was moments when I was just like, I can't even explain it on the show, but she was there for us, and thank you. And Erim as well. Thank you.
No problem. So let's go to the other question, to more, I wouldn't say business side, but for what you actually do. So when and why did you become an imam or hoja?
So we'll
I tried to find a translation because I know it's a hoja, and I was thinking, what is hoja in English?
Imam You know what? It's actually really so linguistics. Okay, so hoca is teacher in Turkish,
Yeah,
but
that's how I
it's
know it.
also I didn't know something. You know, I actually learned something that Greek Cypriot and Turkish Cypriot words are very similar. So the other day I was watching a documentary about a priest in Cyprus, and then while he was walking in the village, they were calling him Vaskale Vaskale, which means teacher. So onlar da yani papaza hoca derler yani tabii kendi analit dilinde.
Yeah.
Imam is someone who's constantly in the jami and he's leading the namaz 5 times a day. The hoja is someone who teaches. You know, I'm actually a self-trained hoja. I was raised okay, so my mother came here when she was very, very young. So she came here when she was 10, 11 years old. And her father, I've mentioned before, was in Cyprus. And then he joined the British forces. And then he traveled most of Europe and the Middle East, North Africa. Then he eventually settled in the UK. And after forgetting that he had wife and kids in Cyprus, my grandmother thought, no, Leorama. So she got on the ship and she came here. My mum was the last, my mum's one of the youngest of 9, 10 children. So she's the third youngest. And so she and her late, my Rahmetli Daya was left in Cyprus as kids. And I think for a year or so. And then my grandmother decided to bring them over as well. Okay, so when they come over, they don't come over by ship. My grandmother said, you know, ben çok zorluk çektim kendim hazır gelmeyeyim gemiyle. Bu çocukları ben yani ezdirmem şeylerde, vapurlarda. And my mum and my uncle were very lucky to come on an Olympic Airlines in 1960 from the old Lefkoşa Airport via Athens. So they saw Athens for the first time in their life.
Wow.
But it was really strange because they'd never ever left the village. They never ever left the village, and they come to a foreign country. My mum didn't really like school here, and I think she spent a year in school, and then she came out of school at the age of 13, maybe, and then she went straight into the factory in dressmaking. But one thing she didn't do, she never really adapted to the UK, even as a kid, and she was very more cultural. My grandmother, thank God, she was much more forward thinking, and she just adapted to England like snap. She came here like at the age of 45, but she became very, very I don't know, she worked very hard. I'm going to say this about my late great grandparents. My grandfather came to this country as a young guy, worked in was in the forces. He never once had a day off work. He never once claimed benefit. My grandmother, Allah rahmet eylesin, she died at the age of 96. Even when she became a pensioner, she was still working in factories. She was looking after kids, and she never ever claimed a penny. And I remember having to go. I had to go to after my grandfather died, and the woman, the clerk at the town hall, who was doing her pension for her, looked up and said, "My God, I want to take my hat off to this woman. She's never ever claimed." And she was due so much money for widow's pension. She eventually got this like askerlik parası that was never, because they never claimed anything. And so she had a very rahat life. My spiritual upbringing came from mostly my mother. So it was always a tradition in our house. So I was brought up in a very, very traditional Turkish Cypriot household. So we had to be careful how we dressed at home. So my mum was still shared that village mentality. So if you're a boy and you've got a sister at home, gezmeyeceğim pijamalarla evin içine ha. Yeah, you know. O şortu ne giyinse de oturun ablanın önünde. Git giyin yani. It was that kind of, it was a bit strict. We weren't allowed to eat pork, for sure. And we weren't allowed to go to parties and things like that. It was I think mum was more careful and but she was religious in her way, whatever she learned at school. But I remember this really, I remember we had to wash ourselves before we go to bed every night. Before we go to bed, there was always this kind of hatırlarım Fatiha suresini ezberlerdi. Her gece dua edecekti. Çocuğudum yani, çocukluğumdan beri yani ilk hatırladığım şey duaydı yani. Fatiha suresi ve Kul huvallahu ahad onları okurdu. Bir de tabii ki o klasik Türkçe dua. ki belki benim yaşımdakiler bilecek. Yattım sağıma, döndüm soluma.
Oh my.
Melekler şahit olsun
That's
dinime,
the one that my
imanıma.
mom. That's the one that my mum teaches my 4-year-old, and he literally recite. She'll probably be saying the same thing as me, but that's the one that sen söyledin onu tüylerim kalktı, because that's the same thing that my
Well, yeah,
mom
you know
said.
what? Hatırlarım onları söylerken yani I used to actually enjoy it, but there was like this kind of, why do we have to do this every night? And but it was like yattım sağıma, döndüm soluma, melekler şahit olsun dinime, imanıma, gökyüzündeki yıldızıma, ağaçtaki yaprağıma, o ağaç ki bir gün düşecek kara toprağa, la ilahe illallah. And you know what? It was quite nice. So I had this bond with my Turkish Cypriot Muslim roots ever since I was a kid. My mum used to read us stories or tell us stories about prophets. Later on, I told her, you know, Mum, this is in the Quran. Where did you learn? Çocukken öğrendim Kibris'te. We weren't allowed to eat pork. We weren't allowed to go out. We weren't allowed to mix with people. You weren't allowed to bring friends home. I remember that. It was quite strict. I broke away from that at an early age. I was quite rebellious as well. So, but yeah, I'm really glad I was very spiritual ever since I was a kid. So I used to like learning stories from the Bible. And then later on, I found out there were stories from the Quran. My father, who came to the UK at the age of 18, unfortunately, his education was affected by the 1958 and then the 1963 conflicts in Cyprus. So in 1963, while he's about 13, 14 years old, he's taken out of school, given a gun, and he's told to defend his village with the rest, and they're taking shifts. But when I speak to my father, my dad's not the most religious man in the world, by the way, but he's got a lot of respect for me, and I've got a lot of respect for him because he's whoever knows him knows he's a hilarious, funny guy. He's the Hoca's comedian father, but and he can do the most amazing impersonations of Donald Duck. So people know him as Donald Duck. He should be in Hollywood or Disneyland. Anyway, but my father, the best topic he was good at school was din dersi. And he used to be chosen to read the ezan in the village when the Hoca was not feeling too well. So he was like the muezzin of the village, and he had a really great voice, my dad. I wish I had his voice. And he could read prayers and passages from the Quran. And my grandfather was so obsessed with this kind of thing that he actually wanted to send my father to Turkey to become an imam. I think as soon as dad heard this is what dad says. As soon as I heard this, yani, kaçtım İngiltere'ye kaçtım ve hiç babasının annesi haber olmadan Londra'ya kaçtı. So when I was growing up, when I was trying to seek religious knowledge, the first people I got religious knowledge from was my mum and dad. And my dad always corrected me when I was trying to read the Quran. I wasn't allowed. I was obsessed to go to learn the Quran as a very young child, but mum didn't trust anyone, so I wasn't sent to the mosque. By the age of 11, 10, I started fasting. My mother used to fast with me. My parents used to take us to the mosque on Bayrams and Kadir geceleri ve Ramazan geceleri. So I was really brought up with that kind of. Then I learned for myself. Çok güzel hatıralarımız var aslında. Yani gene bak o günleri de hiç yaşamayacağım artık. Çünkü o dönemlerde bir Peckham camisi vardı güneyde. Ramazan camisi vardı kuzeyde. Aziziye camiler vardı. Dolar taşardı Kıbrıslı ya. Yani Ramazan geceleri yüzlerce insan, çoluk çocuk, o yaşlı neneler kapıda zikirler, dualar, ilahiler. It was like you never actually miss Cyprus because you actually still thought you was in Cyprus.
Yeah.
So, you know, our older generation did try to preserve that kind of culture. They actually didn't lose it as soon as they came to London. We've lost it a little bit now, but that was how that's how I came to Islam. When you say imam, the only people that call me imam, and if they're watching, my love to all that community, Luricinalılar ve Aytoturular, Aytoturos, Aytoturular, yani Yeni Boğaziçi'ler, they still call me Imam Efendi, Hussain Imam. Very respectful community. And, you know, I have to really say this on here. If there's people from the Luricina community watching, or people from Iskele, everywhere in Cyprus, because they have a very big population here after Kaleburno. No, sorry, before Kaleburno, they're the biggest diaspora community. You know, they always had a lot of love for me, and they've always held me in high esteem. And I hope I've never let them down. I'm very proud of feeling a part of them as well. I feel a part of like Çatos, I feel part of Baf, Lefkoşa.
Abahoğlu.
Hiç kimse ya tabii ki hiç kimsenin gücüne gitmesin. Yani beni tanıyan, ben onları arkadaş dost değil, ben bütün Kıbrıs Türkleri, Londra'da yaşayan ve orada yaşayan, ben ne diyorum? Büyük bir aileyiz.
Evet.
Hepinizi çok seviyorum. Bugün benim buraya gelmem için sizin gayretlerle oldu. But I think I've been honest and trustworthy, and I've gained the respect of my community. I've never imposed my views and my thoughts. I've only given guidance. I'm not a full-time imam, but COVID-19 did really make me into a full-time imam. I want to be a freelance. I'm freelance. I've done a lot of work in Peckham Mosque. I've worked in a lot of Asian mosques. I've done a lot of work for Haji Teslim and for Ramadan Güney, Erkin Güney, throughout the years. And, they've shown me a lot of support, but I've also shown them lots of love back. And that's my imamlık or hocalık hayatı.
Thank you. What inspiring things have influenced your belief?
When you find religion at whatever stage in your life, you're never going to remain the way you found the religion. You're either going to become more into your faith, it's going to enrich you, or you're going to actually leave it. I've seen this. I've seen people come to religion and become. I say, don't run into something. Learn to walk first. Crawl and then walk, then lots of different paces, but run at the end if you want to run. İnsanlar, they come into religion, they start running like crazy, they lose themselves, and then that they get disconnected at some point, and that's the biggest problem. Hussain Hoca 25 years ago and Hussain Hoca now, two completely different people. I was very passionate about my faith ever since I was a kid, but I never took my religious beliefs to an extreme, but I did find at some parts of my life that I was very lonely, that I couldn't share my beliefs with other people around me, because people have different beliefs and people are not very religious as well. Sometimes religion is a very personal thing for people. So I did have them days where I didn't like going to weddings and that kind of jazz, but now I love going to weddings. And I've been invited to lots of weddings. And the other thing, what has inspired me, I think what's inspired me most is reading about the prophets, reading about the Peygamberler, because when you read the parables or the stories of the Quran, they're supposed to be some sort of guidance. The prophets are actually guides to mankind. So reading the stories, the trials and their tribulations, like from Yunus to Moses, and especially the Prophet Muhammad's life, which, thank you, TCCUK, although it was a very, very short version of the Prophet Muhammad, I had lots of people, lots of positive. That inspired me. That person inspired me. The Prophet Muhammad inspired me. His life inspired me. The story of the ones who were his successors, the caliphs, the Prophet's family members. If you read about their trials, their tribulations, what they had to go through just to preserve a religion, to preserve humanity. Mm-hmm. And when you look at that and you read that, it really moves you and it actually inspires you more. But can I tell you one thing that inspired me a lot about Islam more and more in my later days? Traveling. So when I was traveling, I've made a mission that I want to travel these countries that I've got a bucket list. So when you travel to Andalusia, and whoever's watching, Andalusia is the southern part of Spain that was ruled for 800 years by the Moors, by the early Muslims, about 100 years after the Prophet Muhammad's demise. So when you go and see the architectural splendors, you think, wow, my God, how did they build this palace? How was this mosque? I mean, look at the size of that minaret. Although it's a church now, or a cathedral now, or just a museum, I mean, it makes you inspired. It's not all bad. İslam bu gerici dindir, bu İslam aman bahsetme bana Müslümanlardan, hep gericiler, kafaları bozuktur. Hiç öyle değil. Yani İslam aslında çok ileri bir görüş, bir dindir. And I've been to lots of countries like Bosnia, and you see how Islam has survived side by side with non-Muslim for centuries. You see this kind of beauty where you hear the church bell ringing and the muezzin calling the prayer at the same time. That's inspiring. But the most inspiring thing I saw, okay, Halil, that made my faith very strong was probably, of course, Mecca and Medina, when you got the Hajj and you see millions of people from all over the world. You can't understand what the heck they're talking about when they're talking to you, but you know it's all love, because yani ne kucaklar öper ama COVID olmasın. But yeah, you got this kind of love. But when I was about 10 years ago, or maybe 11 years ago, just before the outbreak of the civil war in Syria, I was in Damascus, and I was in this old part of Damascus, the oldest city in the world, oldest recorded city in the world. And, you know, Islam, Christianity, and other religions living side by side. It was awesome. What I was inspired a lot, the area that I was living in, about 2 hours before the call of prayer in the morning, used to have all this kind of wailing coming from the minaret. They were like singing. And I would look out the balcony, and what I saw was these Muslim families, Muslim hojas or schools, or tekke, they call them, mosques. They were cooking food. I mean, food, cauldrons of çorba, pirinçle, ve fakir fukara, Hristiyan mı, Müslüman mı, herkes böyle kuyruklar içerisinde o yemekleri alırdı ve sabah sabah herkes evine dağılırdı. Ben bak bunları konuşurken bile gözlerim dolar. Yani o kadar fakirlik gördüm ama bir kardeş sevgisini gördüm orada. Ve bunu tabii ki yani peygamberlerden ve Müslümanlardan alan bir ahlakla, bir terbiyeyle yapılıyordu bu yardımlar fakirlere. Ve hiç kimseyi sen siyahsın bana gelme, sen Hristiyansın bana gelme, görürdüm yani yaşlı olan Ermeniler, Hristiyanlar cami kapılarına gidiyorlardı ve ekmek alıyorlardı, çorbaları alıyorlardı, kahvaltılık alıyorlardı ve evlerine dönerdi. This made me more inspired in my faith and gave me more faith, because there is amazing community work amongst Muslims, but we don't ever see this on TV.
No, and we'll go later on with some of the questions about how the media does perceive us. But going from that, is the Islamic faith adapted differently within different cultures, and how are they adapted?
It's very interesting, because you know what, I think there's a problem. You know, insanlık bir şeydir bu. When we have a problem, we try to blame others for our problems, and we never address our own mistakes in society. So at the moment, there's this very, very political Islam, and there's this kind of neo-Islam where to be a Muslim, you have to, if you're in Birmingham, for instance, you've got to wear a shalwar kameez, or act like a Pakistani, eat curry or tandoori chicken, or if you're like, sen Türk Müslümansın ha, sen patlayacaksın, sen dolma yiyeceksin, yani sen o Pakistanlılar gibi giyinmeyeceksin. Yani Müslümanlık aslında, when you look at the history of Islam, wherever it went, and it's only like 100 years after the demise of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be, blessings be upon him, the Islam reached Spain, for God's sake. It reached Portugal. It reached India. It went to Southeast Asia. It went right up to the walls of China, and it absorbed Buddhist. It absorbed Hindu culture. So it was very normal for a Muslim in India to be Muslim. But where a sari, for example, yani Arap kıyafeti taşımadılar oraya ve Arap kültürünü taşımadılar. Her gittiği yerde Müslümanlık oradaki toplumun kültürünü korumuştur. Yani düşün, nereye gittiyse İslam, ben hep bunu söylüyorum, like Malaysia git bugün, predominantly a Muslim country. Indonesia, predominantly Muslim country. But you walk out into the jungle, you're going to see some amazing pagodas and temples dedicated to Buddha and their previous ancestors, and it's preserved this. It's only the mad, crazy ones coming today trying to blow them up. But yani hakiki Müslüman, evet, bütün kültürleri kucaklayan bir din anlayışıydı. Ve ben bunu okuyunca ve görünce çok büyük gurur duyuyorum. Yani İslam bir okyanus gibi, it's an ocean of knowledge, it's an ocean of love and tolerance. But unfortunately, we have small-minded people in every community. We've had it in Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, we've got far rights in Hindu, but it's those people that spoil it. But yes, Islam does incorporate other cultures, it doesn't have an issue with other cultures. And if people think or have this kind of knowledge, or they actually think that Islam has come to eradicate every other culture, you really have misunderstood Islam and misunderstood the religion.
And that leads to the next question, where we're basically saying, how important is it to understand other faiths?
Very, very important, because this faith was founded on a foundation of monotheism. This religion is founded on the texts of people that came before us. To become a Muslim, you need to believe in what do you need to believe in? You need to believe in the books that God sent before the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. You can't be a Muslim if you reject Jesus Christ. You can't be a Muslim if you reject the Virgin Mary. You can't be a Muslim if you don't believe that Abraham is the patriarch of monotheism and Ismail and Isaac are his sons. You can't believe that. You can't be a Muslim if you reject Moses or David, who was given these books, Zebur. David was given the Psalms. I learned the Psalms as a kid at school. Annem derdi bana, ne okun be o kitabı? İncil'dir. But she didn't know as well, because she didn't have that knowledge. But I'm really glad that I can read the Psalms now, pages of the Psalms, and it still brings tears to my eyes. The Lord is my shepherd, and you read that kind of stuff. You should read these, because these are inspired by God. Yani bu kitaplar Allah'tan gönderilmiş kitaplardır. İncil, Tevrat, Zebur, tamam, bazı şeyleri değişebilir, bazı şeyleri kaybolmuş, ama o kitapların içinde hakikat da vardır. Yani tek bir Allah, onlar da bizim Allah'ımız. Allah hepimizin Allah'ıdır. Yani bizim dinimiz, yes, it can live side by side, but we do need, brothers and sisters, whoever you're watching. Why am I calling you brothers and sisters? I think I'm in a mosque. So, viewers, if you are watching, it's really important that you know the faiths of others. Because if you don't know the faiths of others, how are you going to understand their culture or their beliefs? But it's very important that we understand our own faith as well. So if we understand our own faith, then we can understand the faith of others. I'm also going to say that, Cyprus is an example of tolerance, how we lived side by side. And I'll give you just an example, like our Turkish ancestors. And there's different theories of where we all come from, okay? We not only originate from Anadolu, we've got black Turkish Cypriots. We've got Turkish Cypriots that come from North Africa. We've got Turkish Cypriots that look Moroccan, and we've got Turkish Cypriots that later came to the island from the island of Crete, who are actually Greek in origin. They're actually Greek converts to Islam. Yeah. And we have people like from the Hijaz, and we have people from Russia. We have Russian Turks that live inside. They all come and they absorb this but they all had one thing. And it's very important that we need to remember, they all come from societies that actually had lived with Jews and Christians. That's why Kıbrıs'ta 58'den önce hiçbir sorun yaşamadık biz komşularımızla. Evet. Yani bunu gerçekten söylemem lazım. Yani I hope I'm not going to offend anybody. When I travel around the north of Cyprus today, I get very, very hurt and upset when I see a desecrated Greek cemetery, or I see a desecrated church. And the same goes on the south. There was desecration done to our heritage by stupid people. But hiç bize yakışmaz. Niye yakışmaz bilir misin? Çünkü bizim dedelerimiz, nenelerimiz yüzlerce sene yan yana bu insanlarla yaşadılar ve bir kilisenin taşına bu kadar bir zarar vermediler. Hiç kimseye inancına karışmadılar ve o dönemlerde, yani 100 sene önce bir Kıbrıs toplumu daha çok katı bir toplumudu, daha çok dindar bir toplumudu, daha çok bir kültürünü korumuş bir toplumudu, ama hiç kimseye karşı bir nefreti yoktu ve saygılıydı. Ben çok yerlerde gördüm. Yani has bir Türk köyün dışında kilisecikler vardı. Bir taşına zarar vermediler. Bugün modern bir zamandayız ve içler acısı bir durumdayız. Ne bizim kendi kültürümüze bir saygı var, ne de bir başkasının inancına bir saygımız var. Lütfen başkasının inançlarına çok saygılı olun. Because we live in the UK, and Turkish Cypriots who arrived in the UK never felt alienated when they came to the UK, because they've had this ancestral hundreds of years living with non-Turkish people, non-Muslims, and they always got on well because they always had respect, love, and tolerance towards their neighbours. So yes, you do need to know the faith of other people.
Definitely, I definitely agree with that,
and respect it as well.
Yeah, Is there anything within your religion that you disagree with, if there is any?
That's a really interesting question. Now, with religion, Islam is open to interpretation. Maybe I'm not a scholar enough to interpret some things, but Allah bana, Kur'an-ı Kerim'de Allah der ki insana akıl verdi. Yani ben biraz da aklımı kullanmam lazım. Bir şey okuduğum zaman kendi yorumu da yapabilecek bir capacity var bende. I've got, and if I'm reading Surah Fatiha, and I'm saying, praise be to the Lord of the worlds, I don't need someone to tell me what that means. I understand that already. But you don't need religion to make you a good person, Halil. I always say that, if God has created you with that beauty inside you that you can respect and be tolerant, loving and kind, because there's a lot of people who are religious and are really not good examples to take. There's a lot of people who are unreligious and are not good examples. Hepimiz sonunda insanız ve tabii ki hatalarımız olacak, günahlarımız olacak, iyilerimiz olacak, kötülerimiz olacak. What I don't find anything in my religion that I can disagree with. There are people that I disagree with. There are people that claim to be of a religion, and this goes for not only Muslims but Christians as well, or Jews, that claim to be members of a religion who have a complete misunderstanding or their own interpretation of the faith. Now, some of their interpretation do scare me. I mean, the interpretation of how women should be in Islamic society and how rigid some people's belief is, it does scare me. And I do disagree with it. And I'm always one to voice out against this, because if you look into the history of Islam, Islam has never been a rigid faith. It's been an open faith. It's opened the doors and opened its arms to many, many different cultures, languages. That's why Islam today is the fastest growing religion in the world. It's not just an Arab religion. It's not just a Turkish religion. You can find Malaysians, Africans, even South America. The Latino population today is the fastest growing Muslim population in the whole of the world. Latin America, 250,000 in 10 years. That's a lot of people. That's Kibris nüfusu there.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, we should be very careful who we take our knowledge from. We should be very careful, our viewers, if you are trying to learn your religion from the Google Hoca Google. Yani dikkat edin, çünkü çok yanlış bilgiler de var dinimizde. Yani biraz aklınızı ve kalbinizi dinleyin bir şeyler okuduğunuzda. Eğer bir şey okursanız ki this doesn't sound right, biraz araştırın onu. Yani dinde ben problem bulmuyorum. Dini inananlar bazı kesimde sorunlar buluyorum. Cevabım şudur.
Correct. It's a great answer. It was a hard question. It was a great answer.
It was. Thank you.
Obviously Ramazan geçti. Güzelce, hopefully güzel geçti. Bazılarımız oruçlarını tuttular. Ben tutamam çünkü benim I take medication in the morning. I have to take it, so that obviously what I do is I donate after Ramazan during Eid.
Of course.
And so what does Ramazan symbolize? How can you interpret that to us, to the viewers?
Ramazan symbolizes so many beautiful things. It's really a shame that with this year, I'm not going to say shame, because this year, thanks to TCCUK, you brought a big family together Ramazan'da. Yani ben her gece yani sana bir şey söyleyeyim, bayram gecesi böyle oturduğum saat 9'a doğru zil çaldı benim telefonda. Reminder, Ramazan gecem iftar program başlıyor. And I was really sad because I'm not going to see everyone tonight.
Oh.
Yeah, so it was, I'm just getting over it now, but for 3-4 nights it was like bir özlem vardı. İnsanların her gece, it was nice to read the feedback and see people coming on that knew you and sending you hearts and like thumbs up and agreeing or disagreeing. That's part of life. But what Ramazan has done this year, thanks to TCCUK, it's brought people together. Now, Islam, what does Ramazan symbolize? It symbolizes brotherhood, sisterhood. It symbolizes unity, shared prayer, great sacrifice. Because yani kolay değil. 14, 15, 6 saat. O güneş, hele son günler çok sıcaktı. Hele benim işimde. It's a sacrifice. It's great piety, unity, virtue, charity, devotion, meditation, prayer, perfecting yourself, making yourself a better person, trying to fast. Even if you can't fast, ben her zaman söylüyorum. Even if you can't fast, ya bu Ramazan'da bir şey sacrifice yap. Eğer çok swear yaparsan, küfredersen, bu ay ne yapacaksın? Hiç küfretmeyeceksin, tamam mı? Yani hiç o F kelimesi, C kelimesi ağzına almayacaksın. Yani güzel olacaksın, güzel bir şeyler meşgul ol. Bir yaşlı bir teyze için yemek yap, bir shopping yap, evine kadar götür. But Ramazan symbolizes unity, piety, sacrifice, and you know what, brotherhood for me, yani, and for everyone.
Evet. And then after obviously the Ramazan period is over, we move to Eid, Bayram. Why and how do you celebrate Eid?
Ah, o eski bayramlar, ah. Yine de nenelerimiz hep öyledir değil. Yani bak, ben çok sorardım yaşlarıma. Ben zaten o eski bayramlarda biraz yetiştim, Kıbrıs'taki köy. We're never going to see them again. It really breaks my heart to say we're never going to. And you know what I was telling Erin the other day? Wouldn't it be nice that, you know, these festivals, and the festivals are a big problem for me, to be honest with you, because there's so much arguing about the festivals. Sorry, people, that I had to mention that. But, you know, the festival is like a bayram havası, but there's so much disunity in our community about kimin festivalına gideceğin için. I wish we could just have one big festival. But I really wish, eğer festival yapılacaksa bu memlekette bir bayram zamanında, biraz o eski bayramları canlandıralım.
Evet.
O eski panayır bayramı yani ben geçen gün anneme soruyordum, ne yapardınız bayramda? Salıncaklar yapılırdı kızlar için, harmanlarda olurdu bayramlar, eğlence, kınalar. But bayram here is a very, very private affair. What do we do on bayram? Bayram, if we can, we go to the mosque in the morning, the kids, and it's still I see a lot of it in London. I'm not sure in Birmingham, but I'm sure because you've got lots of mosques in Birmingham.
We do, yes.
Ondan sonra burada yani görüyorum, Kıbrıs Türklerimiz gidiyor camiye, çocukları getiriyoruz, mezarlıklara gidiyoruz, ölülerimizi hatırlıyoruz Arife ve bayram günlerinde. Gider güzel güzel onların mezarları temizliyoruz, onları yalnız olmadığını hissetmesinler. Dualarımızı yapıyoruz, elimizden geldiği kadar, bildiğimiz kadarıyla dualarımızı ediyoruz, Fatihaları okuyoruz, güzel yemekler yapıyoruz. Elimizden gelirse eğer, bak yani bizi dinleyen burada, Ramazan'ı, bayramı hiç o şeyi kaybetmeyelim. Ben geçen gün sizin kanalda da söyledim. Yani bayram bizim için çok önemli bir bayramdır. Zaten senede 2 bayramımız olur. Bir tanesi Ramazan bayramı, bir tanesi de Kurban bayramı. Bir Ramazan bayramı ne ifade eder? Fakir fukara fitre vereceksin, charity vereceksin, bir yoksulun yüzünü güldüreceksin. En güzel bayramdır bu. Yani düşün, sen bir öksüzü, bir yetimi, bir dul kadına, bir fakir bir neneciye bir şeyler verdin. O yüz ifadesi zaten seni öyle mutlu eder ki senin bayramın başladı yani demektir. Onun için derler ki fitreni sabah ver namazdan önce ki bir aileyi sevindiresin. Yani bayram sevinç zamanıdır. Çocuklarımızı bayramda hissetmemiz lazım. Yani o gün özel olarak bir çocuğuna güzel istediği ayakkabı al, trainers al, bir spor t-shirt al. Kızlarımız varsa yani ona güzel bir hediye alalım. Küçük bir şey de olsun ki bilsin o çocuk ki bak, o özel gününde benim babam, annem bir şeyler yapıyor bize. Ayrı farklı bir yemek yapıyor bize bugün. Neneye gidiyoruz el öpmeye, para almaya. Kurban Bayramı da aynı böyle bir şekilde. Yani bizim kutlama ailelerimizin bir araya geleceği gündür. Ne kadar da uzak olsak ülkemizden bu kültürü, bu örf adetlerimizi sakın kaybetmeyelim. Yine bir bayramda eğer de bilmiyorsan TV'ye bakarsın, YouTube'a bakarsın, güzel bir tatlı pişir, güzel bir geleneksel bir Kıbrıs yemeği pişir. Aile bir araya gelsin ya. Biz Christmas'ta bunları yapabiliyorsak, ki gerçekten ben Christmas'a karşı
neden bayramda yapamam abi?
Ben Christmas'a karşı değilim. Bak söylüyorum bunu. Hani bazılar kızarsa kızsın. Christmas is a day holiday. It's the only day I get off. I don't have to work.
Yeah.
It's the only day I actually sit around the table, and Bayram is the only day. It's a national holiday. Yeah. Christmas to me is what Çocuk Bayramı would be or New Year's Day in Cyprus to me. It's the day we would get close to our family. It also symbolizes the day of a prophet's birthday. Yani benim saygım var. Çok saygım var.
Evet.
Hazreti İsa'ya, Hazreti Muhammed Aleyhisselam'a ne kadar seversem Hazreti İsa'yı da annesini de o kadar severim. Yani benim saygım var. Benim Hristiyan komşularım var. Mutlaka onlara güzel bir tatlı yaparım. Götürürüm o gün. Çünkü onların bayramıdır. Onlar da bana veriyor benim bayramda. Yani
Evet.
it's vice versa. But let's bring back to life that bayram havası. Let's teach our children, because when we're gone, our children are going to be only left with what we've given them, and that's what they're going to pass to their children.
Evet.
So let's
Aynen.
make our children realize that Bayram is it's a special day in our calendar, and let's preserve it for future generations, inshallah.
Inshallah. I mean, thankfully, I've celebrated Bayram here, and I've celebrated in Kibris for the very first time, and I haven't had another chance to do it again. And it's completely different of how we do it, because we live in Birmingham, as you've mentioned. There is mosques, but I don't think they're as welcoming as they are in London, and they're mostly aimed to the Pakistani culture and to those, and I think I haven't seen much from my side of a welcoming thing. I don't know if anybody else from Birmingham has seen that. So biz camiye gitmeyi Birmingham'da. But what happens is we wear our best outfits, as everyone does. We have a shave, everyone looks good, everyone has their best shirt on. İlk defa paketten çıkarıyor, crisp shirt. Bağırın merdivenin yukarı, anne o gömleği aynı yapabileyim bana lütfen, bunu giyeceğim bugün. And then it's like sabahın neyse kalktığın. And then hepsini bir baştan bayramlaşlamaya, bayram kutlu olsun den. Ondan hepimiz, benim taraftan Birmingham'dan hepsimiz babaannemin evine gidiyoruz. Obviously this time around, because of COVID, we weren't able to do öpmeye, bazen hepimiz yaparız.
Tabii.
El öpmeye yaparız. And I believe in the whole el öpmeye thing, because
it's beautiful.
You got to think your mom has used these hands, or the hands that she has, to look after you, from the day that you was born. She held you, and maybe and hopefully not the day that she will see you pass away. Those are the hands that has nurtured you, has fed you, and especially your nene. Those are the hands that have looked after you when your mom and dad are basically going to work, and they have to look after you. And onların da gözünde aile olarak göreceksin. O eller iş ellerdi. Bu eller seni sevdi, sevgi gösterdi, yedirtti seni, iş gösterdi. Yani that's why I believe of kissing the hand and putting on the head and whatnot. Oğluma bile onu gösteririm. Onu da bilir yaptığını. Gelince birinin evine alır, elini öper, koyar, bayram kutlu olsun der. Ondan sonra elini açar, parasını bekler. But he knows that, he understands this, and this is why my mom has taught me, her mom has taught her this, and we keep this culture going. And this time around, obviously because of COVID-19, this wasn't happening. We still met up. We went to bahçede kaldık, social distancing. Everyone was far. We had babaanne's famous patates köftesi that she always makes on the Saturday that it was. We all sat round. We all, for the first time, it was very emotional because we hadn't seen each other for a long time. And it was also the very first time my rahmetlik dede wasn't there. So little memories started coming back, where my dad, my amca, I don't know if Fatosh is watching, my cousin, there's one thing that he always says is, I don't know, I don't want to missay, but there's always this one saying that he says it, and everyone started tearing up. And then I turned around to my cousin and goes, şimdiden bu radyocu bu hoca da dışarı, şimdilik de biraz Ferdi Tayfur'u dinleyecekti şimdi. Oturacaktı şimdi buraya, karpuzu kesecekti. Hepimize bir dilim yiyecektik böyle. Şimdi şeyin önünde, tüm şeyin üstünde yiyecektik böyle. And then everyone started again. And it was just really, really nice. And it was a nice unity for the first time after, let's say, 3 weeks that we've been apart, that
Absolutely.
We came together, and it was nice. And then the other experience of it in Kibris was a completely different, because it was like, I wouldn't say it was a shock, but I was very excited. even though it was my very first, in fact, it was the year that I got married.
Oh wow.
So the Bayram obviously fell in that year. And I was just excited. I was like, I'm going to learn something new because it's completely different. Giyindik, the same thing. Giyindik, hepsimiz giyindik. Gittim babaannemi, büyük babamın, anneannemin elini öptüm. And then they were like, camiye gidiyoruz şimdi. I was like, camiye gidiyoruz. And it's like, okay. So I just followed everyone. There's no need for the car çünkü caminin Abuhor'un Cihangir'in ortasındaydı zaten. So we all went there, and the amount of people that were...
I know, it's amazing.
It was so amazing, and it was like hiç ayrıntı yoktu, kara kitaplar yoktu. Like if there was like bad things between people, hiç yoktu o gün. Hepsimiz aileydik. Hepsimiz girdik camiye. We took our shoes off. We went inside. I didn't know what to do, so I was following my cousins of what to do. But literally that moment, tüylerim kalktı. Like it felt like as though I was taken up into the air. I was watching everyone in the jami where for the first time everyone felt as one.
Bows down, yeah.
And everyone bowed down. Everyone was it was very, very good, and we all came out. Everyone was like Bayram kutlu olsun, Bayram kutlu olsun, Bayram kutlu olsun. And it was near the kahveci area, so everyone was like hepsini başladı kahve içmeye, like as though like
beautiful.
Baba's gone to do like a tavla game or whatnot. And hepsi başladı kahve içmeye, and then we made our own way back. So what they do over there is the same thing that I do here. Hepsi nenemin evine gittiler. Çorba yaptı. Mercimek çorbası with some hellimcik inside. Onu yedik. Hepsimiz oturduk masanın etrafında. Onu yedik. And it was good. It was very, very nice. It was a different experience, and the very first experience I ever had where I've been to a cami, and I'm openly saying this because ben çok gitmem için it felt different. It felt good and nice at the same time, and that's my experience of Bayram here in the UK and Bayram in Kibris.
That's beautiful, Halil. I mean, you can come do my job, you know. Çok güzel anlattın. Yani gerçekten öyle güzel bir hatıralar var ve güzel bir duygular yaşıyorsun o bayramları böyle yaşarken. Ben bir şey diyeyim. Ben Birmingham'da bir gün, 2 gün için çalışmaya geldim. Hatırlıyorum, o Birmingham Central Mosque vardı.
Yes.
Çok eskiden yapılmış bir dome.
Çemberin yanındaki olan.
Ve ben şok oldum çünkü çok merak ederdim. Çok küçük yaşından beri. Çünkü çok kitaplar okurdum. Storybooks with that kind of pictures of the mosque. But it was very, very empty. It was like an empty shelf. But then what I noticed, across the road from there was another very, very new mosque. Çok uzak değildi. Orada insanlar sanki biraz daha kucaklayıcıydılar. Biraz daha cana yakınıdılar. But I understand this we have cultural differences, and sometimes we don't feel welcomed in another place of worship, in a house of worship. So I know where you're coming from, and I'm really glad that you experienced that Kibris Bayram Sabahı.
Yeah,
which is amazing.
It's a nice feeling, and I think if anyone does ever want to go to Kibris, to any of those periods where it's Kurban Bayramı or Ramazan Bayramı, go and experience it. It's probably
Absolutely.
the best feeling ever, especially if your grandparents are still alive. They give you that nice sıcaklık and warm feeling of feeling wanted. I think is the term I'm trying to say. But yeah, it was very good. Yeah. So we go to the next question, which is probably going to go from positives to now to a negative. But how do you think Muslims are perceived through things such as the media or the social media? And how do you feel about it?
Okay, so stereotypes against Islam. Ben çok açık konuşacağım bu konuyu. Çünkü bak, yani biz Müslümanlar biraz kendimize acımayı çok severiz. Yani racism against us and that. But we can be far racist as well. And but the question is about the media. Yeah, the media is nothing new. I mean, the West has had a problem with Islam since going back to the time of the Crusades, and it continued. And there's always been this kind of negative attitude towards the religion from the East. Tamam. Unfortunately, in the period we live in, there's still these stereotypes against Islam, and the media have really played well on this, scaring people. Like bütün çarşaf giyen kadınlar bir bombadır. But we even have people who stereotype in our own communities. Yani boş ver yabancı gazeteciler veya medya. Bizim kendi medyada onlardan daha iyi değil. Yani dini ve İslam'ı daha çok geri görünen bir inanç olduğunu sürekli görüyoruz bazı Türk medyalarda, ama İngiliz veya Batı'daki medya işte Müslümanlar geridir, Müslümanlar ekstremisttir, teröristtir. Ve şunu hep söylüyorum Halil, o kadar güzel insanlar var Müslüman'da, alimler var. Yani alimler, scholars, there's so many scholars, educated, people that really have spent all their life, their complete life in spreading love and peace and tolerance, who've worked with other religious communities, who live side by side with Christians, who've really been nice to their Christianity. They never get the airtime on the social media. So if there's something if there's like Allah korusun bizi, because it always upsets me when there's some sort of terrorism done in the name of any religion, because it's frightening. I remember just like a year and a half ago, I think it was not even a year, that we had the Sri Lanka church massacre. Yani ben çok üzüldüm o gün. Christmas gününde sen kendini Müslüman sanıyorsun, kendini Müslüman adını veriyorsun ve bir insanın ibadethaneye giriyorsun ve bütün insanları öldürüyorsun Christmas gününde. Yani bu kadar acımasızlık olur mu? Bu kadar Allahsızlık olur mu? Sen bu kadar mı utanman insanlıktan? Yani sen bu kadar mı küçüksün? Ki the media uses this, and you know it's the aftermath of this is so. Ama bak, ben sana bir şey söyleyeceğim Halil bu konuda. Bazı insanlar burada belki beni yanlış anlayabilir, ama biz kendimizi eğer bir toplum olarak veya din olarak kendi ayıplarımızı, hatalarımızı düzeltmezsek bu düzelmeyecektir. Çünkü suç yine bizdedir. Evet. Çünkü eğer bizim insanlar içerisinde veya toplumun içerisinde extremist varsa, we need to voice against them. We need to be the people to say, you know what, these people are not from us. And we need to, so if you see something happening, I just gave an example, the Sri Lankan massacre, okay? The Sri Lankan massacre, the church massacre. It was painful. But a lot of Muslims, they feel, well, it's not my duty to say sorry. They're not doing it in my name. But sen bir Müslüman olarak, I'm talking about the religious people here, right?
Yeah.
You need to send messages out, and you need to make your voice heard that this is not done in the name of my religion. Exactly. Just the way when the New Zealand mosque killings took place, that crazy man, which I didn't even want to see that video. You know, just the way Christians came out and said to people, you know what, Müslümanlarla beraberim burada. Yani bu olamaz. Sen insanları başka din veya renk olduğu için onların ibadethaneye girip öldürmeye hiç kimsenin hakkı yok. Yani eğer bir Müslümana yapılırsa, nasıl bizi destekleyen Hristiyan, Yahudiler varsa, bir onlara yapıldığı zaman biz de insan olarak öyle dememiz lazım. Bir örnek daha vereceğim. Yıllar önce Afganistan'da dev Buda heykelleri vardı. Bunyamin. So the great Buddhas of Bunyamin, in the Bunyamin region, they have stood there since the dawn of civilization. Since Buddhism has been founded, these great Buddhas were there. The early Muslims, the successors of the Prophet and his grandchildren and other people who knew the Prophet, who seen the companions, they went to those areas. They converted mass people because even the guardians of those temples became Muslim. No one touched those Buddhas. No one touched those statues. They were preserved because they were a part of the world heritage, part of all our ancestors' heritage. Ne yaptılar bu bizim deli ekstremistler, Talibanlar? Gittiler bombaladılar o büyük Budaları, değil mi? O büyük Budaları bombaladılar, yerle bir ettiler. Yanlış anlama buradaki söyleyeceğim. Bugün Budistler bizi öldürür Burma'da.
Yeah.
Bizi öldürüyorlar şimdi. Hindistan'da Budistler ve Hindular yüzlerce camiyi yaktılar o zaman. İnsan öldürdüler. 4-5 kişinin cahil yaptığı şeyden milyonlarca insan şimdi çeker. Yani you do a bad thing, and things will do. You know, if you're good to someone, then they will be good to you. If you're bad to someone, then you're bad to you. So the stereotypes are only going to stop when we, as a community, I'm talking about the Muslim community, reflect upon the mistakes we do, and we need to encourage peace, love, and tolerance, because that is the way of the Prophet.
Exactly.
Sorry, that went on a bit. Yeah,
that's fine. I think that was. I think it's true what you're saying. Is we need to stand up to against those that seem to want to bring down the name of Islam and all Muslims as well, to say, you know, if something does happen, like you've just said, if something happens, we need to speak up and say, look, bizim ismimizde yapmıyorlar bunlar. These people aren't following.
Yanlış anlama. Yani ben görüyorum. Ben geçen gün de söyledim bunu arkadaşlarıma. Yani bayram gelince aman herkes, yani ben Müslüman dindar kesimden konuşuyorum. Herkes işte bayramdır ama bak işte Boris Johnson bayram mesajı, ama ne kadar iyiydi bu Boris Johnson. Hepimize bayram kutlu olsun söylüyor. Ondan sonra you got Canadian Prime Minister, other non-Muslim dignitaries celebrating our bayram, wishing us a good bayram. You see these videos of the churches, Methodist churches in America, in Sweden and Switzerland, opening the doors for the Muslims to go and pray. Biz acaba onlar gibi yapar mıyız? Asla yapmıyoruz. Yani ben şimdi çıkayım da Christmas gününde, bak bunu söylüyorum, ciddi söylüyorum. Ben yaptım bunu 2 yıl önce. Kalmadı laflar söylemedi bana insanlar. Kalmadı hakaretler yemedim. Niye? Çünkü ben Hristiyanların Christmas'ine kutladım diye. Yani Happy Christmas. Ya sen, you like it when someone else is like beating you, you know, making you feel good.
Yeah.
But come on, it's due respect. You have to have this mutual respect. You live in this country. You cannot. I know a Muslim guy who once said to me, "I would never say Happy Christmas to my neighbor." And I said, "What?" He said, "I won't." He said, "I'd rather stay indoors ama söylemem kendine." But he was loving it when she was bringing him baklava and Turkish delight on Bayram Day to him. He was making it. Ya olmaz öyle. Yani bu kadar, yani bu kadar da olmaz.
You can't be accepting the respect one way from, and then but you're not going to give it out.
It has to be vice versa.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Go to the next question, and then it may be a on the fence one on this one, but how can we make the LGBTQ community in the Turkish Cypriot culture feel more welcomed when it comes to the Islamic religion?
Into the religion or into the culture?
Into the religion.
Religion.
Let's say religion.
Okay, yeah, because I think culturally, this depends on the circumstances of the family, how the family are coping with, and we're talking about people that have actually come out, and have made themselves, they're saying they're lesbian or gay. Tamam, you know, Halil, being the issue of being gay has been around since the early times of creation. It's in the Quran, it's in the Bible, it's in the Torah, it's in other religious texts as well. So it's not a new thing. You know, I don't get shocked when someone says to me, "Şu böyledir" or öyledir. First of all, Islam never closed the door on anyone. And if people are doing that, unfortunately, it goes back to that thing about the stereotype that we do have extreme people with extreme views in our community that feel they are God, that God has given them the key to all of paradise. And you know what? Sen gireceksin, sen girmeyeceksin, sen gireceksin, sen girmeyeceksin. Öyle bir şey yok. Allah'ın rahmeti, Allah'ın sonsuz rahmeti bütün herkesin üzerindedir. Allah dilediğini affeder, Allah dilediğini kabul eder. Şimdi, you know what? At the end of the day, who am I to judge someone? First of all, I'm talking on a personal level here, and we should be trying to perfect our own thoughts before we find faults. with other people. We need to spend more time with our children and our youngsters. We need to be actually not father and son or mother and daughter ama daha çok arkadaş gibi olmamız lazım çocuklarımızla. And we need to be there for them. I didn't want to give this example, and I didn't actually write this as a note, but I know a Hoca in Turkey who has got 4 children, and he lived in a very, very mahalle of Istanbul, and 2 of his sons came out and they said they were gay at the time. And this was 1986, and it was really difficult. Bir tanesi Kanada'ya kaçtı, hatırlıyorum. Bir tanesi de Ankara'yı hatırlamıyorum ama o hoca neler çekti. Biliyor musun? O hoca neler çekti mahalledeki insanlardan. Yani söylüyorum, o hoca belki 50 yere taşındı. Yani bu kadar da olmaz. Biz kimiz ki başkasını yargılayacağım? Hatırlıyorum, anlatırdı bana hoca. İsterlerdi beni dedi. Yani düşün, İstanbul'da bir yer. Yani İstanbul'un bir mahalle. İsterlerdi beni. Yani gideyim camiye de söyleyeyim. Benim evlatlarım reddederim. Beni istemem evlatlarımı. Evlatlarım artık benim için öldü. Yani ama dedi, ben bir baba olarak ben bunu yapamam. Bunlar benim evladımdır. Dedi, yani hataları, günahları, sevapları ne olursa olsun onlar benim can ciğerimdir. Yani you have to remember, you know, these people that we talk about are somebody's kids, are someone's loved ones. We shouldn't be judging anyone anyway, because the master of judgment is God.
Exactly.
Maliki yawmiddin. He's the master of the day of judgment. If he's going to forgive someone, he's going to forgive them. Nothing to do with me. Herkes nasıl hayatını yaşarsa privately, beni ilgilendirmez. So only if it becomes a problem for me, then I can have my voice and I can say something about it. But do we welcome in Islam? Do we say in Islam that because you're a part of a community, LGBT, whatever you want to call them, that you're not part of Islam? They can't be they can still be Muslims. It's up to them to perfect themselves. Yani it's up to them if they want to carry on in the act, or they it's, you know, it's a subject on its own. Let's not close the door of God's mercy on people, because that doesn't give anyone the right to shut the door on anyone. Allah'ın rahmet kapısı bütün insanlara açıktır. Hiç kimsenin hakkı da yoktur kapatsın o kapıyı birine. Ben diye yine o hocayı hatırlıyorum. O hoca neler çekti ve sonunda hanımı ve diğer 2 oğlundan ta İsviçre'ye kadar gitti. Yani ki o kadar utan. Yeah, that's not right. You can't do that. You know what? We have to have respect to everybody's sexual orientation, their ethnicity, their gender. In Islam, there is forgiveness, and leave judging to God. On this topic, I think we need to be more sensitive. I'm going to give you one example as well. Başıma bu olay geldi. İsim vermeden toplumumuzda bir adam öldü. Ve hatırlıyorum, camiye gitmiştim, Peckham Camisi'ne. Aile toplandı. Sonra bir genç bir çocuk camiye girmeye çalıştı. Ben tabii ki öndeydim. But I heard some scuffling. And I thought, what's going on? And there was lots of noise and shouting. And I stopped the service. Giderim bakarım ki bir çocuğu neredeyse dövecekler. Bırakmayacaklar caminin içine. Neymiş? İşte he came out to his family at some point. And he's not allowed to attend the funeral. So I said, who is he to the deceased? Is his son. Yani Allah'tan merhamet et yani. Yani bu kadar da olmaz. Yeah. Sen kimsin da, you know, just because that person, you know, I've seen people who have been in prison on cases of drugs, and who are in prison for 30, 40 years, being allowed to come out to visit their loved ones on the day they're dying or come to the funeral. How can you shut the door on your brother? He's your brother at the end of the day. If you demonize someone, you're going to lose that person. They're going to lose all respect for you. And you know, we're driving people away from faith. We actually, because people think, you know what, bunlar bu kadar merhametsiz ise demek Allah bana da merhamet etmeyecek. You know, don't push people away. Don't close the door of mercy, of God's mercy on people. Yani ben bu LGBT konusunda şunları söyleyeceğim. Hepimiz insanız, hepimiz beşeriz, hepimiz hata yapabiliriz. Ben demiyorum ki onların yaptıkları doğrudur veya kötüdür. It's something that they're still part of our community and we have to accept them as part of our community. We've got lots of bad people in our community. Yani let's not demonize anybody and let's not close the door of mercy on anyone's face. Bu çok doğru ve çok yanlış olur yani. I hope I've answered that the best way I could.
Yeah, no, that was very nice. Thank you. So we'll go to something a bit more cheery, and talk about weddings and then celebration. And how would a wedding be done, for example, in the 1900s in Cyprus compared to a wedding in the present day?
Brilliant question. The 1900s.
Not that I'm saying that you was born in the 1900s, but I know you've done a lot of research. So I thought I'm going to ask the right person for this.
It's really, really good question. Şimdi o dönemindeki düğünler bugünkü düğünlerle kıyaslanamaz. Yani o dönemdeki düğünlerimizden hiçbir şeyi bugüne kadar preserve yapmadık. Onu söyleyeyim sana. Yani eskiden düğünler tabii ki farklı bölgelerde farklı adetler vardı. Ama hemen bütün Kıbrıs'ta ne kadar da köyler veya kasabalar birbirinden uzak da olsa düğünlerin adetleri hemen benzeri adetler vardı. Bir tanesi şudur ki düğünler o dönemki bana soran 6-7 gün sürerdi bir düğün. Sonra 1920'lerde ve 40'lara 50'lere kadar 3 güne düştü bu düğün. Çünkü masraf da çoğudu o zaman. Ama ne vardı? İnsanlar birlik olurdu. O gelin ve damada ailelerine çok büyük bir katkıda yardım. Yani bir köyde bir düğün olacaksa yok o tavuğunu verirdi, o buğdaysını verirdi, o pirinç verirdi, o şunu verirdi, onu verirdi. Güzel yemekler pişirilirdi. Bugün düşün Kıbrıs'taki düğünlerde yemek yok. Sadece bir tebrik var. Giden durun 4 saat yani Nuno gibi orada. And I feel so sorry for the gelin damat and they just pinning this money on. It has no resemblance to a Turkish Cypriot cultural wedding. And then everyone gets up and dances and then you leave. Bir bastiş verirler sana. Düğün bitti. No, öyle değildi. Eskiden düğünler ne yapılırdı? Geline kına yapılırdı. Kına gecesi olurdu. O kına gecesinde sadece erkek tarafından erkeği bırakırlardı. Gelirdi kına. Onun da parmağına koyarlardı. Gelini şarkılar söylerlerdi. Ailesi ağlatırlardı gelini. Ertesi gün hamama götürürlerdi. O köylerdeki hamam vardı. Gelin alayı kızlar, bridesmaids diyelim artık. Gelirdi o kız hamamda müzikler, şenlikler, davullar, zurnalar. Bu def vardı, kadınlar çalarlardı. Güzel şarkılar. Adamlar ise kendi aralarında eğlenirlerdi. Oyunlar vardı, şaka yaparlardı. Damadı getirirlerdi köy meydanına. O da hamama götürürlerdi. Eğer hamam varsaydı köyde. Tıraş ederlerdi, otururlardı, yeni çizme giyerdi, dizlik giyerdi, waist jacket, bilmem, fesi filan. Güzel düğünler vardı. Düğünler çok hareketliydi. Sonra gelini alırlardı, gelini gezdirirlerdi atın üstünde, köyün içinde. Nenem anlatırdı bana, silah olanlara havaya fişek atarlardı. Böyle durmadan fişek, değişik oyunlar vardı. Ama 1900 yıllarında bunu bilmeniz lazım. Düğünler ayrıydı. Kadınlar erkeği görmezdi hiç. Yani köy meydana erkekler, kadınlar da başka yerde büyük evlerin içinde yapılırdı. Yani erkek kadın ayrımı vardı. Hem Rum için hem Türk için sadece. Ama tabii ki 1950 ve 40'lardan sonra, 40 ve 50'lerden sonra daha yavaş karışık düğünler olmaya başladı. O 7 günlük düğün zamanı 3 güne düşmüştü. 3 gün içerisinde düğünler olurdu. Usually Perşembe gün başlardı düğünler, tamam. Halil, Perşembe gün başlardı düğünler. Cuma günü nikah kıyılırdı, kınası yapılırdı gelin. Cumartesi de düğün yapılırdı. Pazar günü de güle güle hepsini misafirlere yollarlardı. Yani yorucu ve bayağı pahalı bir şeydi.
Evet.
We haven't preserved a lot of our wedding culture. Thank God in the UK we have, because a wedding in the UK will take about 6-7 hours.
And yavaş yavaş bazı eski adetler is creeping into Turkish Cypriot culture here. So we're doing the kınama now. Eskiden biliyorum bu konuya geleceksin. Eskiden imam nikahıyla imam nikah demeliyim de dini nikah vardı Kıbrıs'ta daha önce. 1950'lerden önce yani bizim nenelerimiz böyle hep dini nikahıyla evlenirlerdi. Şahitler gelirlerdi. Çok güzeldi düğünler ya. Testi oyunları olurdu. Yorgan oyunları olurdu. Masaları oynadılardı. Adam masayı alırdı ağzına. Ağzına masayı kaldırırdı. Öyle bir oyunlar vardı. Düğünler köy meydanında olurdu. Fakir fukara gelen herkesi yedirirlerdi, içirirlerdi.
Evet.
Yani o dönemde, o fakirlik dönemde bile yemekli, içmeli olurdu düğünler. Şimdi yavaş yavaş yemek, içmeli düğünler başlıyor gene Kıbrıs'ta. Ama daha çok sosyet yerlerde, bir otelde. Yani o eski Kıbrıs düğünleri
Köyün
sadece
içinde.
nerede görüyoruz? Folklor oyunlarda görüyoruz biraz
Evet.
ve burada yavaş yavaş canlandırmaya çalışıyoruz o eski adetleri. Mesela gelin bir gece önce kınasını yapar. Ondan sonra bindalli giyer, kırmızı bindalli giyer. Ondan sonra fesli bir eşarp giyer. Üzerinde liralar falan. Oğlanlar ise Kıbrıs geleneksel bir kıyafet giyerler. Ki bak,
Tıraş yaparlar.
aynen. Kıbrıs'ın geleneksel kıyafet konusunda yani folklorda gördüğümüz ne kadar da yakın görünürse it's not the right but it's something similar. İngiliz araştırmacılar ne dediler biliyor musun? 1920 yıllarında Orta Doğu'nun ve Osmanlı'nın eyaletleri içerisinde en güzel geleneksel kıyafetleri Kıbrıs Müslümanlardaydı. Kıbrıs Türk toplumu en güzel yöresel kıyafetleri Kıbrıs Türk toplumdaydı. Yani çok güzel elbiseler dikerlerdi, bindalliler, dizlikler. O erkeklerin çorapları bile hep işlemeliydi. Yani yok ördek, yok kuş, yok şey. It was yani lots of time was spent on Turkish Cypriot weddings.
Yeah.
We preserved a little bit of it, but it's never going to be like the old. But I've got Sheniz Raif who's watching here now.
Yes, she's just messaged. She says Hussain Hoca did my kına with the yorgan kaplama 12 years ago.
Yeah, thank you. And I was going to say that was the first time I saw a revival, and she also had an imam nikah as well. So yeah, that was a proper eski Kıbrıs Türk kültür düğünü ve kına gecesi. Thank you Şeniz, çünkü aklımdaydı gördüğüm o yorumu.
Yeah, as soon as you said Sheniz, like it just popped up straight away. But it's true because you only see this at folklore when they're doing their little hazırlama thing for example at the panayır. So for example, when I would go in summertime, my other half is from Mehmetçik. They have their panayır üzüm festivali. And they will have the folklore from the okullar o taraflarda şey yapardı. Folklore yapardı. Gösterirlerdi. Nasıl kına geceleri şey yaparlardı. Erkeği otururlardı sandalyeye, tıraş ederlerdi kendilerini. Ondan sonra they'll do a sickle dance, they'll do all the dance with it.
Evet.
It's very good to look at, but you don't see that no more. And like you said, it's only done during those times, and it'd be nice to bring that tradition and culture back, because it then doesn't feel like as though, right, we're turning up to the registry, and we'll go to the whole registry thing after this. They go to the registry, they turn up, they sign the papers, then they do the party afterwards, and it's starting to be a bit modernized, where they do speeches. Then they've added the whole tradition of maybe davul zurna with the testi, and then dance, and then they do the whole para takması, bastiş. I mean, eski zamanlarda sigaralar da verirlerdi. I don't know if you remember that. Sigara not anymore, obviously, but yeah. And that's how I remember, like Kıbrıs'ta, çünkü Kıbrıs'ta da öyle yaparlardı.
Evet.
It was like bütün köyde köylüler gelirdi düğüne. Zaten gecenin birincinden gecenin sonuna kadar tebrikler vardı. It's not like how it is over here where you do the tebrik at the end because of the whole party. But yeah, it's changed. It's definitely changed, and it'd be nice to bring back some of that culture.
You know, even some of the elements, like as Sheni said, I remember her Kanage just saying we had a lot of people who maybe not her Nene Rahmetli Nene was alive, and there was that Yorgan kaplama, and you know the one thing I remember seeing, and you see it in other traditions as well. Whenever doing the Yorgan kaplama, they'd get a baby, little baby boy or girl, and they throw them on the Yorgan yani to give fertility, you know, yani bol bol çocuk yapsınlar bunlar. It was, I mean,
it's that as well. It's like you have that, and then you have the testi of the smashing of the fertility. It's like, what's anyway?
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Yeah. It's really rich. It's rich in history.
Definitely, yeah. Rich. So we'll go to the, as we was mentioning over with the wedding registry. So why do we see a lot of Turkish Cypriots do a wedding registry, but forget to do like you said, din nikası? And how can we remind people for future reference? To try and not push it, but just to have a bit of knowledge to say the reason why of doing it.
Okay, so this is a lot of this is the way I can answer this is that I need to put I need to really go back to our history. So Turkish Cypriots in Cyprus were ruled by the British Empire, so we were under colonial rule for since 1914 to right up to 1960. Now, although in Turkey the reforms of Kemal Atatürk took place in 1925, although a lot of Turkish Cypriots wanted to follow those traditions, follow those new laws, they were not imposed by the British. We have to remember that the changing of the alphabet in Cyprus was completely under the Turkish Cypriot leadership at the time. That's how it happened. Yoksa İngilizce kalsaydı daha hiçbir şey değiştirmeyecekti.
Yeah.
Bu nikah konusunda da 50'lere kadar şer'i mahkemeler vardı Kıbrıs'ta. And you can translate them as the courts of Sharia. So if you're Turkish, you went to a şer'i mahkemesi, which was run by like a Sharia, but like a very hafif Sharia, not the kind of Sharia that we think in the UK, you know, the Sun newspaper kind of Sharia. No. So it was Islamic law under British administration. And so our grandparents, especially I'm 50, so my grandparents and my halas and my daisies, when they got married, they would have got married through a Hoca. But it wasn't called Imam Nikah. It was just called Nikah, but the Hoca would do it because he was the only one appointed to do this. Now, with the new reforms, when the British allowed the reforms to be the new laws on şer'i mahkemeleri kapandığında, and we went over completely to secular, yavaş yavaş bu dini nikahlar kaybolmaya başladı ve artık köy yerlerinde tayin edilen kişiler, mesela muhtar veya bir öğretmen, o nikah memuru olarak resmi nikah yerini geçti. Ama Halil, Kıbrıs'ta 60'lara kadar köylerde bile ve kasabalarda birçok aile resmi nikah keserken, çünkü dedesinden nenesinden gördü, yine ailenin hocası gelirdi eve ve onlara nikah, dini bir nikah kıyardı. Ama imam nikah diye Müslümanlıkta yok öyle bir şey. Yani nikah Arapça kelimesi contract, yani duyurma. Yani herkes bilsin ki siz artık evlisiniz. İmam nikah, bu resmi nikah girdikten sonra imam nikah kelimesini aldı. Yoksa eskiden nikahıydı. Bunu bir hoca yapabilirdi, bir kadı yapabilirdi, bir dini eğitim görmüş bir insan yapabilirdi. Ben bu konuda şunu söyleyeceğim. Benim kendi ailemde bunları öğrendim. 1958'de gelen bu ülkeye olan teyzem, ki çok genç yaştaydı, o annemden daha önce geldi, o galiba 8-9 yaşındaydı. Evleneceği zaman 66'da 67'de ne zaman evlendiyse ille de neneme demiş ki ben imam nikah isterim ha. Çünkü Kıbrıs'ta öyle görürdü. Kıbrıs'ta gördüğü için, yani ben Londra'ya girdim, yok ben öyle resmi nikahda istemem sadece. Ve gitmiş, annem anlatıyor bana ki o zaman Pakistanlı bir hoca bulmuş veya Türk hoca, hatırlamayacağım çünkü I wasn't born. imam nikah yapmışlar. Dayım da öyle. Dayım ki sonradan geldi. Dayım eğitim görüyordu Kıbrıs'ta ve 67'de 66'da gelmiş ve 64'ten sonra gelebildi. O da evlendiğinde yengemle bu memlekette imam nikah aynı zamanda imam nikahda kesti resmi nikahdan sonra. Tabii ki zaman içerisinde bu adetler yavaş yavaş kayboldu. We came to the boring registry offices, which is I find the most boring experience because it's just like somebody doesn't even know you. She's telling you to read these words and saying, you know, do you take this? But there's no spirituality in it.
No.
And I think a lot of people, sorry, I'm jumping from Turkish to English, but I really want people to understand this, especially people who have married into like other nationalities, like English people, like if the girl, are you not going to have like a religious blessing for your wedding? What, a registry? You must be joking. You know, to some English people, like registry is like, oh my God, no way, I'm not going to, because you know, the whole thing about the church wedding, having dressed in white, walking your daughter down the aisle. Yani artık Müslümanlar da, Kıbrıs Türkler de burada, Halil bunları artık istiyorlar yani. Ben ayda bir 4-5 tane dini nikah veriyorum ama bir şartla veriyorum. Ya bana aile gösterecek ki register olacak, registerin günü belli olacak, devlet resmi nikahın yanında biz de aynı günde veya bir gün sonra dini nikahda yapıyoruz ki artık ben bilmiyorum Birmingham için ama Londra için artık gerçekten it's becoming a revival. Yani dini nikah bu memlekette gerçekten canlanmaya ve tekrarlanmaya başladı. Yani bak Sheniz was the first person I done. I know she's very active on your page. Sheniz Raif, I think, is the first imam nikah I done many years ago. So it's coming back.
It's coming back, yeah. And Melda Aygün is saying, is it also because resmi nikah diye geçmez Londra'da that people don't do it now? But if I'm right in now, is legally binding imam nikah? I think.
Yes, I mean, thank you, Mel. That's a really good question. So if you were to have your imam nikah, or let's call it a dini nikah, done at a mosque, you don't have to actually do it because some jamis now, even some Turkish jamis, they have the power of being a registrar. So you can have your dini and registry nikah done under one roof, even in your own house. And so you have the state and also the religious registry done together, which I think is really beautiful. I think it's nice to have that spiritual because you're getting blessed by God. Ve çok güzel bir nikahdır. Yani ben, especially me, when I do it, I make them take vows, and it's like Aisha take you, Hassan, in the eyes of God to be, and you give vows as well to be faithful to one another. And I think it's nice. It's a nice bond at the end of the day, and it's a spiritual relief for some families as well.
So I'm just going to go do 2 questions from the viewers before I go back to my questions. There's one from Erim Abi. Question, if not too late. As a community, it seems like we find it hard to segregate politics from culture and lack the ability to compromise. What do you think is the way forward to bring our community together? Famous phrase, as a community, we are stronger. Much respect to the both of you, gents. Thank you, Erim Abi. What do you think?
I'm going to give the answer in English. The only way we're going to come forward as a community is, please do not get offended, my elder respected generation, but the older people from our community need to step down, sit down and watch us, and allow people like you, I'm not going to say me, because I've already got that platform.
You're still young. Still young.
But people from the younger generation to bring this community forward, because all respects to the amazing stuff they've done over the years, but you know what, they still lack a lot of knowledge of what our problems in society are. You know, our problems in society is not having a festival all together. Our problems in society are not about Hangi Community Center, Gidegen. Our problems in society are drugs. Our problems in society are kids running away from home, It's child abuse that exists in our community. It's domestic violence that happens still in our community. It's gambling that happens in our community.
Evet.
And we need to address this. And bizim dediğim gibi yaşlılarımız artık yavaş yavaş bu işi gençlerimize versin ve sakın eğer bu topluma bir faydanız olacaksa sakın politikayı karıştırmayın. Bak ben ne diyorum? Dine de karıştırmayın. Politikada karıştırmayın. Günü gelince bayramsa dini şeyi getirebilir
Evet.
o toplumun içerisinde. Veya Kıbrıs'ta neler yaşadık? Tarihimizi iyi veya kötü, acı veya mutlu bunları çocuklarımızı bildirmemiz lazım. Ama
Evet.
çocuklarımızı başka insanlara karşı düşman yaratarak yapmayacağız bunu. We're not going to educate our children so they hate people. We're going to educate our children so they know. We're not going to have this kind of thing. You know, I see it a lot when I come across an Armenian. I thought, oh my God, and he finds out I'm Turkish. He's like trying to bite my head off. I don't want my children to be like that. I don't want my children to have enmity against Greeks, against Armenians, against whatever they are. I want my children to respect their fellow human beings. I want my children, okay, to live side by side like my ancestors did for generations in Cyprus, and even the ones before them who came from maybe Anatolia or from, I've got origins in Arab countries, they live side by side with Christians, and we never had these issues. So our older generation need to yavaş yavaş bu işi gençlere bıraksınlar.
Yeah, it's time to go to Kıbrıs and retire and give us a chance to, you know, because like you said, biz görüyoruz yenileri, the new things that are happening, and we're also up to date, and we're always ready to learn these new skills, new beliefs that are happening, opening our eyes open. And like you said, we're not
Halil,
saying
sana
this
bir örnek verebilir miyim? İsmi vermeyeceğim arkadaşın. Dün bir COVID sayfasında, COVID-19 Cyprus sayfasında, solcu bir sayfa, Kıbrıs Rum Türk, nice sayfa, yani herkese biraz teselli vermeye bir sayfa. Orada bir bayram mesajı gönderdi. Yani grup olarak bir Happy Bayram, Rumca, Türkçe, İngilizce. Hiç kimseden hep pozitif mesajlar. Güzel mesajlar. Rum, Türk, herkes birinin bayramını kutlar. Bir tane Kıbrıslı Türk orada yazmaya başladı. İşte ben atheist'im. Tamam. Ama ben herkese karşı respect'im var. Ama bu din şeyleri hep maskaralıktır. So ben geri yazdım dedim, bir saniye. Sen atheist'sin. Respect'in var. Ben de sana bir Müslüman hoca olarak ben de sana atheist olduğunu respect yaparım. Solcu olabilirin, sağcı olabilirin, sarı olabilirin, siyah olabilirin. Ben seni sayarım. Ama senin orada bu din şeyler hep maskaralıktır yazman. Yani artık utan yahu. Utan yüzünden. Birinci sen bir bayram mesajın altında bayram maskaralık olduğunu yazıyorsun. İkincisi o sayfa insanlar ki ailelerini kaybettiği bir sayfadır. Evet. Ki 250-300 kişi Rum Türk ölmüş bu Covid'den. %99.9'u dini bir merasim olarak toprağa verildi. Sen o insanların inancına maskaralık demek hiç sana yakışmaz. Onun için ben sana şunu söylüyorum. Eğer bu toplum bir yere gidecekse sağ sol kavgaları, din olmayan kavgaları sokmayın. Sadece kültürel bir şeyin içerisinde artık bu yola çıkabiliriz. Yoksa kendi kendimizi mahvedeceğiz sadece.
Evet.
Ve kendi toplumumuzu kaybedeceğiz bu ülkede. Öyle görüyorum ben. Evet,
hepsinden saygılar, hepsi alkış ediyor ki söylediğimizi. So I'm just going to go to one last question from the members, and then I'll go and I'm just going to ask one more question from our side because 2 saate geliyoruz. Obviously, zaten ben konuşunca benim hepsi der bana. Çengen hiç durmaz Halil. Ne yapayım? When I meet someone new, I like to know them. I'm enjoying it.
Sabah olmasın hadi.
So it's from Sev Derviş. Question is it essential for a Muslim woman to cover her hair?
Okay, so the cover of the hair. Do you want my personal opinion or do you want my religious opinion? Both. Okay.
Both.
So of course, yeah. So there is a tradition in the Quran, and it's found in Nur Surah that says that when women go outside, they should cover their head, and this shouldn't be an alien thing to us, because if you look at all our nenes and dedes, sorry, our nenejik there, and some of our mothers as well, if we was older, they all wore a headscarf at some point of their life. They wore a headscarf before they wore the shawl. Their Abuk nenes wore the gara charshaf or the beyaz charshaf, whatever color it was, but it was completely. They wore what in English you call, the chador, mate, the burqa. They wore that burqa kind, but we don't call it burqa. So that's ingrained in our traditions of being a Muslim and of being Turkish Cypriot. Even non-Muslims have head covering. So you have it in Judaism, you have it in Christianity. Victorian England, if a woman was to walk outside without anything on her head, she'd probably be laughed at because she either had to wear a shawl or a scarf. Does it make you a lesser Muslim if you don't cover your head? Islam, again, of course not. You don't have to cover your head if you don't want to. But if you are a practicing Muslim and you can do it, the benefits are yours. Women are asked to wear a headscarf. There are different interpretations on that. Personally, if you can do it and you want to do it, we should, again, it comes to that thing about showing respect to people's identity. If a Muslim girl or lady wants to cover her head, we should support her in that. If she doesn't, then don't force anyone to do things that they don't want to do. But if they are doing it and it's out of religion, you respect it because it is a part of our religion. It's a part of our faith. Hep nenelerimizin başları kapalıydı yani.
Evet.
Ben bazen şok oluyorum ki böyle insanlar var ki işte bu başörtü giyiyor. Ya niye giyinir böyle? Ya utan. Senin nenen de giyerdi yani.
Evet.
Yani bu kadar şey olma, çünkü zaman zaman değişiyoruz. Yani eğer bunu gerçekten dini uğruna yapıyorsan helal olsun sana diyeceğim. Eğer yapamazsan yine Müslümansın. Yine Allah'a inanırsın. Yine Allah seni sever. Yani hiç kimse böyle ayrı kamplara koymalı. Hepimiz insanız. Hepimiz hatalarımız, iyiliklerimiz de olacaktır. Ama kapalı veya kapanmayan hepimiz, eğer sen kendini Müslüman görüyorsan Müslümansın yani.
Güzel.
Thank you.
Great answer. So I'm going to skip two of the answers that I put on. I'm going to go straight to the one that will ask, why did you set up your foundation, your charity?
Okay. So that's a good thing. I don't have to look at my notes to tell you. So I've actually, as a kid, I was I was raised in a very charitable house as much as I remember. I remember the first acts of charity I saw when I was a kid. Every Friday, or I can't remember if it was a Friday or Saturday, I'd go back to my Nana's house, and she lived across the road from us. And I used to be fascinated. I'd sit and watch her. She used to bake bread. She used to make hand-baked bread and kafes and stuff like that. She used to put it in the oven. We used to watch it raising in the oven. Yani tam Kibris ekmeği olurdu. Ve hatırlarım, o ekmeği alırdı, o rahmetli nenem, 7-8 lav. Ve kapı kapı gezerdi ve komşulara verdi. Bir fakir aile vardı bizim onun evin altında. Çok severdi o aileyi. O aile daima bir şeyler verecekti. Ya gidecekti çocuğa bir fanella alacaktı, ya kadına yemek alırdı, taşırdı. Dedim niye bunu yapıyorsun dedim kendine. Dedi bana bu çok önemlidir dedi bizim için. Çünkü ne verirsen elinle o gidecek seninle. That was the first words I heard from my nene. Ne verirsen elinle o gidecek seninle. And the same thing, I used to remember going to Cyprus and they would go to the yetimhane, my family, or öksüz çocuklar varsaydı. İşte birini sevindireceksin ki Allah seni sevindirsin. Öyle şeyler. So ever since young, I was doing these kind of charity things at school. When I became older, of course, it's an act. It's one of the pillars of my faith to give charity. So I give my fitbeh, and so I decided, many years ago, let's try to help people in poorer countries. let's raise some funds. You know, it's been amazing, Halil. When you venture into this, God opens these amazing doors, and you meet these amazing people in your life who actually, I can't even explain it to you, but I never thought we'd come to this stage. So Cyprus Islamic Association, which was founded by me, which was only founded to give awareness to our Turkish Cypriot community, just to preserve what we've got left of our religious identity, turned out to become this kind of massive, the largest Turkish Cypriot, overseas charity in the UK. And thank you to CTCA. So CTCA awarded me 2019 as the best Turkish Cypriot overseas charity, and TCCA awarded me in the same year, in the beginning of the year, the best. And this was elected by the people. You know, everything I've done in my 6 or 7 years of opening the borders and working abroad, 100%, yani 100% of the money has gone. There's been no middleman or no charity chairman to take a bit portion. Yani we're now funding projects in Bangladesh, orphanages. We're giving livestock to family. We're helping people who are suffering because of the COVID. In Indonesia, we helped a family rebuild a mosque after the tsunami in Indonesia. Wow. And in Lombok, in Lombok, in an island, Lombok Island, they know who the Kibris Turks are, man.
Wow.
They're saying Kıbrıs Türkler bize yardım etti. Bosnia'da, Tuzla kasabada resimleri paylaştım. Bir Boşnak okulunda Kıbrıs'ın bayrağı çizdiler. Çocuklar Blackpool'da onların bayrağı yan yana. Yani Londra'daki Kıbrıs Türkler bize bayramlık gönderdi. Yani 70 lira gelir, 70 sterlin gelir. Her çocuğa verdik. Orada 25 tane öğrencimiz var. Kıbrıs'ta çeşitli programlar yapıyoruz. Her sene köylerde muhtaç olan ve özürlü olan aile mensuplara bir yardım paketi yapıyorduk. Fakat bu sene öyle bir şey gördük ki çok mağdur olanlar yabancı gençler idi. Bu yabancı öğrenciler ve onlar için çok üzüntü çektim ben. Çünkü biraz dışlandı gibi oldu o halk. Ve Allah'a şükür onlara yakın 200 yardım gıda paketleri gönderdik bu insanlara. Çok mutluyum çünkü o videolar, o resimleri görünce, o yüz ifadeleri, bak bu insanlar bizi unutmadı. Yani Londra'daki veya İngiltere'deki Kıbrıslı Türkler bize yardım etti ve devam ediyoruz bunu ve inşallah daha çok büyük yerlere gideceğiz. Ne dedi nenem? Ne verirsen elinle, o gidecek seninle. Yani ne yapalım? İyilik yapalım. Yine sen para veremezsen bile bir insana gülümse yeter. Yeter ki gönlümüz hep merhametle dolsun. And I want to thank TCCUK because TCCUK this year for me has been a massive door of how I reached out to my community. My community really suffered over COVID-19 and my sympathies bütün kim yakını kaybettiyse gerçekten başını sağ olsun. Çok zor bir dönem geçirdik. Thank you. I don't know how many people are watching tonight, but whoever they are, I'm seeing a lot of little love hearts popping up and down. Ben sizi gerçekten kalpten, gönlümden selamlıyorum, seviyorum sizi. Birlik, beraberlik içerisinde olalım. Let's always have unity, love, respect for any people in our community, and let's make our community a much stronger and better community. Thank you TCCUK. Dualarım sizinledir. Çok daha büyüyeceksiniz. Çok daha güzel şeyler yapacaksınız.
This is just the tip of the iceberg. This is just I have so many ideas up here that yavaş yavaş, like you said, yavaş yavaş. Çünkü hepsini aynı saatte yaparsan insanın canı sıkılacak. Yavaş yavaş bu projeleri cemiyete göstereceğiz. İnşallah bu kapılar açılacak. Hep beraber birlikte bir aynı yerde bulaşacağız. Güzel bir eğlence yapacağız. İnşallah bir balo yapabilirik. Kıbrıs'ın kültürünü bir şey böyle bir yapabilirik. Like köşelerde dedelerimiz gelebilir, tavla oynasın. O bir köşede lokma pişirilecek. O bir köşede o kahve kokusu gelecek. Bu şeyleri öyle bir köşe bir şeyde sanki bir düğündü ama düğün için beklemeyecek bir şarkı gelsin, dans etmeye, o kelebekler çıksın. Bu sizin için gelesiniz bu kültürü hep beraber bir celebration olarak için yapacağız. İnşallah bunu yapabiliriz hep beraber. Hep beraber insanlar gelsin el ele. Dans edelim, eğlenelim, ağlalım, gülelim.
Aynen.
Çünkü önümüzde bu kapılar açılacak. Ben görebilirim ki bu Covid dünya ikinci bir şans veriyor. Görebilirsiniz bu dünya gene nefes alabiliyor. Pollution azaldı. Ağaçlar başladı açılmaya. Çiçekler açıldı. Hayvanlar dışarı çıkıyor. Venice'de nasıl diyeyim, in the rivers there's fish and dolphins that are coming out.
İstanbul'da dolphinler, evet.
Exactly. So görebilir ki her kötüye bir yanlışla bir iyilik oluyor. And hopefully, and I know I don't want people to see this as a bad thing that I'm saying, but hopefully geçirecek, hep beraber geçirecek. Hep birlikte geçireceğiz bunu. There's a question from Sevder saying, what was the charity's name and how can people donate to your charity?
Okay, I want to be very honest. So the Ramadan appeal is closed because, as you know, Ramadan is about giving fitrah, and because the fitrah has to be given on a special day, so that's closed. But we are doing, we are always collecting. And if Sev wants to inbox me privately, because I don't want to post anything charitable on the TCCUK now because it's the Ramadan is over. If she wants to privately inbox me, I will send her the details and also give her some ideas of what she can donate to. There's different schemes that we're doing throughout the year, and it's all very beneficial. But before we close, I want to thank everybody at TCCUK. Can I just send my last message to everybody?
You can, yes. Last words, yes.
Because I know we've gone over 2 hours. I want us to be able to agree to disagree as a community. I want us as a community to stand united. I want us as a community to not let political or extreme ideologies, that can be religious or whatever they are, to break us up and make us into some sort of lost community. I want us to be able to support each other wherever we can. And, you know, by doing this, by coming on tonight and, you know, giving us 2 hours to watch TCCUK, that brought so much joy to people in that COVID period, made us laugh, made us cry. They allowed a Hoca to come on for the whole month. Yani bunlar dedim yine. Yani bunları unutmayalım. But let's always try to have respect to people. Let's always try to better ourselves in society. Let's stand always united, and let's preserve what's left of our culture. And what we can find out more about our culture, let's revive it. You know, we can use a little bit in a wedding. We can use a little bit in an engagement party. As Halil said, we can have a big ballon. We can have displays of our beautiful costumes that we wore once upon a time. Let's be proud of our past instead of hiding behind thinking that Turks did not give anything to the world. We gave everything to the world. You know, it wasn't just hummus and cacık and dolma and döner that we gave. We gave so much stuff to the West as well. And, you know, but keep together and show support to this amazing Facebook page, because it has brought joy to so many people. And I actually have a feeling that it will go somewhere really, really big if we support it all together. Thank you for having me on.
Inshallah. Thank you. No, thank you for it. It's been an honor. I feel as though I can call you a kardeş now because I don't, you know what I mean? So it's yakınlaştım biraz. Bilirim kim olduğunu. You know what you bring into the community, and it's good. And hopefully everyone else that has joined us tonight, for those who haven't known Hussain Hoca or have known and you've known a bit more now, hopefully in the future, I think we were speaking that you'll come on next week to do the Jumu'ah prayer for us, hopefully. And also if you would like to take Thursdays to, like how you was doing through the Ramadan period, of giving some insightful and knowledgeable information, if you would like to take Thursdays as yours to just to share a bit of information to our community, they're always here to listen, and I'm sure you will have positive feedback. But thank you very much for coming on. hopefully we can have another one of these maybe in the future, but in real life, across the table, maybe over some chai as well, and have a proper communicate. Maybe even have invite some members of the group to come round so they can ask questions, and that would be good as well. So that's iyi akşamlar from me, and thank you as well. And I'm looking forward to the future. Remember, everyone, united we stand, divided we will fall. So let's stay strong and support one another.
Thank you.
Thank you.